Hi guys, welcome back. Yes, I'm audible. Okay, that's great. Let's get started. So if not, try reconnecting once. So we have discussed yesterday the auto scaling part. We understood like basically what is auto scaling, right? So it's an horizontal scaling from AWS, and we understand that there are like two settings or two configurations in the auto scaling are there, which are launch configuration and as well as the auto scaling group, right? So the launch configuration basically it's all about like when AWS is trying to create, right, which try to create the instances, so which configuration it should need to use, and then when to launch and how many it needs to launch, when to decrease. So all those kind of things will be, I mean, the remaining options will be in specified in the auto scaling group. So first and foremost, when we want to do this things, when we need to do these things, so obviously the thing is that what we need is, so we need to have obviously an application or website, right? So that what we'll do, will basically implement using the auto scaling, so that whenever users come to our website, right, so if with the nominal users, so we'll be specified some minimum maximum. Let's say we'll specify minimum is 2 and let's say maximum is 20. So it's like that. So we mentioned as minimum max. So minimum always like 2 will run, right? And then at times if the users are increasing, then what will happen? Let's say we might specify like add plus 2, right? So add those instances, and if more users are coming like this, add 2 instances, something like this will do it. So it will keep on increasing based on the users count, and what is the max up to? So it will be goes on like up to 20, right? And let's after some time, let's say the load come to normal and decreased, then what it will do, it will try to decrease, minus 2 something like that. So it will come back to the 2, which is basically the minimum, right? So this it will work out, right? Basically this is how it will work. So first we need to have a website or app, right? So then we use this kind of minimum maximum, then we can add, increase, delete based on the load or something, whatever the criteria. So based on that we can go ahead and do it. Now if you remember, in the RDS section we already installed the WordPress. That WordPress is we have already installed, and if you go and access this, it's already running. You see that it's already running, right? So now I don't want to like install another application, and also I'll just go with this application itself, because we have website ready. So this, think like this is my website and I want to make it auto scaling when the users are coming more. I want to like, right, make it run this application through the auto scaling process. So here we need to understand like there are like two kind of terminologies we normally use, right? So uh, scale up and scale down, and scale out and scale in. So this we already actually seen in the previous picture, what we have seen in the auto scaling. If you see that, scale up or scale down means the vertical scaling. So which means if we scale up means if we increase the instance resources, we call it as scale up. If we decrease the instance resources, we call it as scale down. Okay. And wherein if we add the instances, more like the horizontal scaling, then we call it as its scale out. When we are decreasing the instance count, when we are removing the instance count, we call it as scaling. So in our auto scaling, basically as it is a horizontal scaling, so what terminologies we'll use? Basically we'll use the scale out and scale in. Okay, so when I say scale out means we are adding the instances. When I say scale in means it's removing the instances. So remember this terminology. Now we have already the uh, application is there, but we want to make this application to be auto scaled. So as we already discussed that we need two configurations. One is basically what? Launch configuration, right? Now here in the launch configuration, as I told, like what we mentioned, that we need to give the auto scaling, that what are the settings to create the EC2 instances, right? One second, there is a question from Khalid. We created an instance in EC2 which was example of vertical scaling, and every time we used to add the storage manually in case there is a requirement and storage. So does it means that vertical scaling, the manual intervention is involved? I mean, we are not talking about storage here, Khalid. First thing is that, and see, uh, when I say vertical scaling, when you see, so we are increasing the existing, the current instance specifications or hardware. So we are increasing the same one. So that's what we call it as vertical scaling. So vertical scaling normally needs the human intervention. So automatically the instance type will not change. We have to go and change it. Right. So obviously vertical scaling involves manual intervention. That's one thing. And if you are increasing the storage means that is also kind of, I mean, a kind of a vertical scaling, but that is what, like it's a vertical scaling at storage level. But here what we are discussing, it's not at the storage level. We are discussing at the instance level. Okay. So as part of this launch configuration, so we are going to use the 7-step things, so which basically used to launch EC2 instances. So what are those steps? First, obviously, it's all about like the first is what? It's the AMI. First step, right? So we should have the AMI ready. Do we have that AMI ready? No, we don't have. So we have the instance there, right? We have instance is there. So from instance we cannot create another instance. So what we need to have, we should have an image. So what I'll do, I'll create an image, and then this image I will use it with the launch configuration. So anyway, we already have the server, we already installed the application, and also what I'll do, I'll just simply take this AMI for this. Okay, let's go to the actions, image, create image. I'll say that, let's say this is WP app server, something like that. Just click on create image, close. Now if I go to the AMIs, we can go and see that it will start. It will take some time. And the first step is like AMI. Okay, we are creating instance type, will select, storage also will specify, right? And then networking, bootstrapping, all those things will specify all these things. And one more thing which we need is that one thing which is interest, I mean, we need here, the extra thing is that, so as we are adding multiple instances, when you're doing with this horizontal scaling, we are talking about multiple instances. So obviously what we need a load balancer, right? So we need a load balancer. So auto scaling will not create the load balancer, so we have to create it in the configuration. We have to specify that load balancer. So what I'll do, I'll create a load balancer as well, so that whenever the instance are creating and all those things, right, so by default it will associate with this load balancer. Let's go and create the load balancer, go with the classic load balancer here and give some name. ASG auto scaling demo, some name is fine. Okay, I'm happy with the default settings. And we'll use Linux firewall, which has 80 port open. Look, TCP, it's fine. Add instances. I don't want to add any instances now. I'm just creating a load balancer without any instances, right? So it's a click on create. Now, if you go and see, we don't have any instances here. There are no instances registered to this load balancer. So it's an empty load balancer now. It doesn't have any instances. Okay, I think the AMI is available, right? So now what I'll do, I will maybe delete this instance because anyway, we already took the backup. So I don't want any instances to be running. I'll just remove this instance so that I will not have any confusions with the instances count and all. So I don't have any instances. Now let's go to the auto scaling. So here you can say that we have under the load balancing, we have this auto scaling section. Here we have launch configurations and auto scaling group. So let's open this auto scaling group. So here there are like basically two steps will be there. First is always launch configuration and second is auto scaling group. Means first we need to specify the launch configuration settings, and then the second we need to specify the auto scaling group settings, like when to add, when to delete, something like that. Okay, so even in when you go to, I mean, you can create a launch configuration first and then you need to create the auto scaling group. Okay, so even if you go and try to create a auto scaling group where if you don't have any launch configurations, now you see that as I told, the first step is always launch configuration, but here we don't have any launch configurations found. Right now, if I try to do the second step first, let's say by creating auto scaling group, now if you see that step one is what, create the launch configuration. It's saying step one. Then step two, which is the auto scaling group. Now if I try to do that step two also, it's saying that first you complete this one, the launch thing, then come to create the auto scaling group. Right, so let's click on get started here. Now the first step is what, we have to create the launch configuration. You see that step, create launch configuration. So here we are selecting the which AMI used to launch the instances. Let's go to the my AMIs. We already have the WordPress one. Just click on select, and then we will go with the remaining settings are normal, we know, right? So let's go with T2 micro free tier, and here we just need to specify what is the name. It's a demo launch config, right? LAU launch config. Just give some name, and this pod instances we'll discuss later. IAM roles also we'll discuss later. And if you want the CloudWatch detail monitoring to be enabled, you can select it. Detail monitoring means we know that, right? So it's a 1 minute interval instead of the 5-minute interval. I want this because we want to see these things every minute instead of 5 minutes. Okay, because why I'm going with this detail monitoring here is just to make our demonstration complete a bit faster. If I go with like 5-minute interval, it will take more than 1 hour kind of, right? So in the advanced details, you will be having the bootstrapping script, and also if you want to pass any user data or bootstrapping, you can specify it, but I don't want to do that now. Okay, anyway, the application is ready there in the AMI. Let's go to the add storage. I'm happy with the default settings. So I don't want to create any security group exist, I mean new one. I'll just go with the Linux firewall, which has HTTP open, right? If you want, I think it has the SH is also open, so that's is more than enough for me, right? Let's go and review, and this is the launch configuration. Just click on create launch configuration. Now the last step, selecting the key pair. So which key pair to be used, I think I'll use this prod key p. I acknowledge and create launch configuration. When I click on it, now we have completed with that first step. The launch configuration has been completed. We have selected all the things. Now what is left basically? So we have left with some more options, like we have not specified about the um, VPC settings, we didn't specify. We didn't specify about the load balancer. I mean, we haven't attached that load balancer with the auto scaling configurations, right? So we have not done that. And then like when to add and as well as when to remove, right? And then minimum max, so all these things. And then how many it need to add when it is adding and as well as when it is removing. So all these things will specify in the second thing, which is basically the in the second auto scaling group. Now if you go and see that we don't have any instances running, there is one but it has been deleted, right? So I'll make this as terminated. So terminated instance. Okay, this instance is terminated. And if you go and see the load balancer also, we don't have any instance. I'm just making sure that we don't have any instances, right? Let's go to the instance section here. You can see that there are none, right? Now after we specify all these things, so minimum, maximum and all these things, right? So what will happen is auto scaling will create those instances and then it will add to the load balancer and it will create in the VPC, in that VPC, and it will associate with the load balancer. So we don't need to manually do that. Auto scaling group itself will automatically add the instances to the load balancer. So we just need to specify the things, right? Let's see that. Now we just give again. So auto scaling demo, just give some name. Okay, so normally in the organizations what we'll do is we'll specify the launch configuration names and as well as this auto scaling group names with the customer name or the client name or environment name, like that will. So by seeing the name you can understand, so which client, which customer, which environment, which application, like that. Okay, and then we are using the demo launch configuration. It's fine. And here it is saying start with how many instances. So how many, this is what basically means the minimum thing, how many you want. So let's say we want how many, we want 2. So we'll start with this very small numbers. And in which VPC, so you can select which VPC you want to do it. So I'll go with the default one, and you have to select subnets, in which subnets the instances need to be created, right? So always remember this, you have to select the subnets which are in multiple availability zones, because auto scaling automatically creates, when it is creating multiple instances, what it will do is it does the availability zone balancing. Means, so I said minimum is 2 instances. Now what auto scaling will do is auto scaling will create those instances in 2 availability zones, so that if any availability zone is down, still you have one more instance. So if I specify the subnets in a same availability zone, what will happen? All the instances will be created in the same availability zone, and if that goes down, like everything is goes down, right? So you select multiple availability zone, so that it will create the, it will does the availability zone balancing, right? So for high availability, now we have selected like 2 subnets which are in different availability zone, 1A and as well as 1B. And in the advanced details, so we'll be having that load balancer settings here, right? So you see that receive traffic from one or more load balancer. Yes, I want that. And you have to select the classic load balancer, which one we want. AS demo we just created, let's select that. Now we have selected this load balancer. So whatever the instances which will create, right, automatically, so those instances will be associated with this load balancer, will be done by auto scaling itself. We don't need to do anything, right? And here you can say the health check type, which health check type you want to uh, auto scaling, you want auto scaling to be a does this, I mean the health checking. So we'll go with the EC2. So you can specify if you want ELB as well. This is not ELB health checking, remember that. This is auto scaling health checking. Okay, and then this is the health check grace period. So health check grace period is basically means, you see that the length of time that auto scaling waits before checking an instance health status. So by default, when instances are created, like here you say that we are saying it will add, remove the instances when the load goes, I mean when the load is high it will increase, when the load is reduced it will decrease, right? So when it is automatically creating, so what it will do is it will wait for some time. So right away it will not route the traffic to the instances. Once it is created, it will not right away transfer the request, because the instance we just created will not in a stage to handle the request. So based on the applications, based on some services, it might take some time to start, right? So that's why this is what the grace period. So auto scaling wait before checking the instance health check, right? So here you can mention like how much you want. Mean the basic is basically 300 seconds, which is means 5 minutes. So once the instance is created, auto scaling will not do anything on the instance. After 5 minutes only, it will check the health of the instances. So if the instance health is fine, then it will try to forward the request and all those things it will do it. Otherwise, it will not do it. So like that. So you can mention if you want like 120 seconds or something like that, whatever is basically suitable for the application you think, right? So that you can specify. Let's say I'm specifying just 120 seconds. 2 minutes is more than it. Let's say after the instance created, right? And enable CloudWatch detail monitoring. I don't need anyway. We have already done in the previous section only. Instance protection and service linked roles. So these roles we'll discuss in IAM. Okay, so you don't need to worry about it. This is just to go with the default here. We don't need to do anything. And this instance protection means if you click on it, there is only one option: protect from scaling. So protect from scaling means it will protect you from scaling, means it will make sure that it will not happen the scaling activity. What is scaling means? Reducing the instances. So if you select this option, let's say protect from scaling, if I select it, what will happen? It will protect from happening the scaling, which means the scale in will not happen. So what normally we want to have, so when there is a load we want to add the instances, when the load is came down, then we want to remove it. I mean that's what we have seen in the even the Wall Street example, right? So in the daytime it's around 3000 instances, in the night it's coming back to 300 instances, so it's adding and as well as it is removing. So this option is basically just an extra option. If you want to use, you can use it. So if you use it, what will happen? Just I used the same option in the that Wall Street example. Let's take an example. If I use that Wall Street example, in that if I use this, what will happen? In the daytime it will go up to 3000, but in the night time, as I told, it's protect from scaling, so it will not do that scaling activity. Means in the night also it will be 3000 only. It's like that. So this is what the option. So if you have some kind of a requirement where you don't want the scaling to be happen, right? So that's where you can select it, but we don't need that. We don't want that kind of option now. We want that auto scaling to be properly work. Increase decrease should be done. So that's what it is. And there's a service link role. Let's go with the default. No need to do anything. Let's click on next. Scaling policies. So here we will select the all the remaining options, when to add, when to remove, right? How many need to add, so all these things will specify. So the first thing it's saying, keep this group at initial size. Initial size, what we mentioned, 2, right? We specified 2 instances. Now if we go with this next and create, I mean if we go to the next and complete the auto scaling configuration, what will happen? So it will be always at the initial size, means 2 instances only. But we don't want that. We want to use scaling policies, right? So click on this, use scaling policies to adjust the capacity of the group. So minimum we already mentioned 2, and what is the maximum? So here you can specify anything. Okay, first you specify some amount, let's say 50 or whatever it is. So based on, if it is always you're getting load always like around 40-50 instances are running, then we can go and modify the settings. Like we may increase that minimum from 2 to 10 and the maximum from 50 to maybe 100, something like that. Because if the load is continuously on your website, means obviously you need more instances to be there to take that load, to take the request from your users. So at the end, what we need, like every application, every website, it needs is more customers, right? More and more customers. If you get the more customers, like we'll get more business. It's like that. Okay, so that's how I mentioned. Now these just a minimum and maximum instances. Let's come down a bit, and here if you see, there are like 2 different kind of scalings are will be there. So what we have just seen, whatever we are seeing. So by default, when you click on this use scaling policies option, this option will come. This is the what you'll see, and this is basically not the actual traditional auto scaling policies. This is, we call it as targeted tracking scaling policies. Targeted tracking scaling policies means, so here what it will do is, so you can see that metric type is there. So here you see load balancer count, average CPU utilization, average network in, average network out. So what it will do is, whichever the metric type you select in the load balancer, request count, or network in, I mean traffic in or traffic out, whatever you select. Let's say if I select average CPU utilization and the value I mentioned, let's say 50%, right? And what it will do is basically, so let's say you have created with 2 instances, right? And there are like a lot of requests came. What will happen? Obviously the CPU utilization will increase. So when a lot of people are coming means, in those 2 instances, CPU utilization will increase. So what this targeted tracking policy will, what we mentioned is average CPU utilization should be 50. So which means what this policy will do is, it will make sure that average CPU utilization is always 50%. So how it will make sure? Here, if it is lot of requests are coming, the CPU utilization may increase up to 100%. Here 100%, here 100% means what? Average is what? 100%. What we specified as a target bracket scaling policy should be 50. Then what it will do? It will add some instances, some number of instances, might be 1, 2, 5, till the max 50. It will add some instances, right? So it will add some instances to make sure that the CPU utilization, the average CPU utilization of all of the bunch of instances, the group of instances, should not be more than 50. Even after, let's say it's created 2 more, still all these CPU utilization is still 100% or maybe some 90%, then it will add more and more, like this it will add. So it will always make sure that 50%. Okay, let's say 30 instances created, it run for some time, the sale is over, let's say, right? As long as the sale is running, like it has created around 30 instances to make sure that 50% average CPU utilization across these instances. Anyway, we have the load balancer, so it will take care of the traffic routing across multiple instances, right? And after sale is over, like obviously the CPU utilization will tend to reduce, right? And then what will happen? We need to make sure that 50%. Now the load is reduced, people is like will not come as they will come when the sale is on, right? So the CPU utilization will tend to come down, maybe 10%, 20% and all, right? Then what will happen? Like we have 30 instances where there is no CPU utilization at all, then it will start reducing the instances. So it will reduce the instances, right, to make sure that the CPU utilization should not be more than 50. If there is no utilization or maybe utilization less than 50, then it will start removing the instances, maybe 2, 4, 6, whatever it is. So it will remove some instances, it will check if the load is there. If the load is there, then it will run with those instances. If there is no, again it will remove some instances, 1, 2, whatever it is. And how many it might reduce? It might reduce up to only minimum 2. So if it is minimum 2 are there, it came back to minimum 2 without having much load, then it will come back to here, and later it will not reduce again, because minimum is always to be 2. Like this is what basically the, we call it as target tracking policies. This is what, so this is one thing, right? So this is one way we can do the auto scaling. And there is one more way, which is what the traditional one which we looked, right? So if you want, just click on this scale the auto scaling group using scaling step or simple scaling policies. Okay, let's click on that. So here this we call it as step scaling policies. This one, the actual one, we call it as step scaling policies. Here we are specifying increase group size, will specify, and as well as we'll specify the decrease group size. So what is this increase group size and decrease group size means? So when to add and when to remove the instances. Previous one, the targeted tracking, we didn't specify when to add, when to remove. We just only specify one metric, saying that okay, this is CPU utilization should be 50. Auto scaling will take care of that. We didn't specify how many instances need to create, how many instances need to be deleted, when to add, when we didn't specify anything. Only one metric. I want across the instances should not be more than 50%. That's it. But here it is not that, right? So here basically what it is, here it is. So we'll specify when to add the instances. So here what we'll do, we'll use the CloudWatch alarm concept here. We'll create an alarm here. It's just a group name here, nothing else. Let's create an alarm. Let's click on add new alarm. So I don't want any notifications here. If you want, you can specify it. Okay, you can select the uh, SNS topic and all, but I don't want. So what is I want? So we'll create an alarm, and when the state of the alarm is in alarm state, then this increase group will execute, means it will add the instances. So what I'll say, let's say uh, I'll specify maximum CPU utilization is, let's say, more than 70%. So what I said, I'm not specified, remember this, not average. I specified maximum. So when I select average, means it will average uh, the total instances CPU utilization. Let's say if I have two instances, it will do the average, right? So you know, like how to do the average and all, right? So here what we did, I didn't select the average one, I selected the maximum one. So if any instance, not just all of the instances, if any of the instance in that fleet, I mean in that bunch, is CPU utilization is more than 70%, more than 70%. So there is at least like you see here, this is the threshold we mentioned, and there is one consecutive period of 5 minutes. It's so I don't want 5 minutes, it's kind of a very big for us. So what I'll do, I'll select 1 minute, and period means 1 minute here. So I don't want 1 minute, maybe let's go with 3 here. So 3 consecutive periods. So 3 means here what? 3 minutes. So one period equal to 1 minute. So I selected 3 periods. So 3 minutes. So let's say if this is the one is, let's say 5 minutes. So if I select 3 consecutive periods of 5 means 1 equal to 5. So 3 means 3 into 15. So 3 into 5. So it will be 15 minutes. So I don't want that much big. So here I'm selecting very small time range interval because it's our demonstration, but in the organizations you might go with maybe 10-15 minutes kind of. Okay, I mean we can modify all these things whenever we want. While testing it, we can go and see how our application is performing and how the auto scaling is performing and all those things. Based on that, we can go and do it. Now I specified 3 consecutive periods, means 3 minutes. So if the maximum CPU utilization of any instance is more than 70% for 3 consecutive periods, means continuous 3 minutes, if it is there, then what it will do, it will make the alarm in alarm state. If it is not more than 70, it will be in OK state, right? So let's click on create alarm. I just created a CloudWatch alarm, that's it, right? Now we know that when we create the alarm, so we have the options, right? We can take an action. We have seen SNS action, there is an EC2 action, and the third one, there is the auto scaling action is also there, right? Now when the alarm in OK state, it will not do anything, but when the alarm in alarm state, which means that if any of the CPU instance, I mean any of the instance CPU utilization is more than 70%, right? So what the action it need to do, let's say I want add some instances, let's say 2 instances. When the CPU utilization is more than 70% for 3 minutes, add 2 instances. So now we have 2 instances, there is some CPU load is there, and it added 2 more instances. Okay, now 4 instances are there. If still there is some load on the instances, then it will add 2 more. It's like that. Okay, so like this. So basically it will, as long as the CPU utilization is normal, it will add 2 instances till the max 150 instances reachable. After that, it will not do anything because that is the hard limit was mentioned. So even after 50 instance also, still it is more than 70%, then it will not do anything. Okay, it's like that. So this is what basically the increase group size, like when to increase, and how many it need to increase. So here this instance needs to warm up after each step is basically means uh, this is basically called it as after creating the instance. After creating the instance, right? So what will happen after the instance is created? The instances will be added to the load balancer, right? Now after adding to the load balancer, so whatever the time here we mentioned, so it's by default 300 is there, so which means 5 minutes. So load balancer will not route the request to the instances till the first 5 minutes. So this is what, so it will give that period of time. The first thing we have mentioned in the launch configuration is what, it will not check the instance health, right? So this is what we are saying basically. This is what is basically is load balancer will not route the request. Okay, so it's like, I mean, that is auto scaling, this is sorry, that is EC2, and this is load balancer, two different things. Okay, because why it needs some 300 seconds or 120 seconds or whatever you mention, it basically means, let's say when the instance added, it will be in what, out of service, right? So it need to go through the health checks. Once the health checks is succeeded, then only it will come into the in service. Once it is in service, then it will take the load, it will take the request, but till the time it will be some time will be there, right? So that is time here. Okay, and come down a bit, I'll just go with the defaults. 5 minutes is okay. Now decrease group size. So when to decrease, again I'll create an alarm, add new alarm. I don't want any notifications here. Now let's go with average only. I want average CPU utilization, let's say, I'll say okay, less than or equal to um, I'll say 20%. Let's say, take an example here. Now if the CPU utilization, average CPU utilization, you see I'm selecting average, not the maximum or minimum. So average means like how many instances are there, whole average of the instances. If the CPU utilization is less than or equal to 20%, means if it is 20% or lesser than 20%, which means, I mean, nothing is there actually, right? 20% means, so then again this is also for, I'll say 3 minutes, consecutive 3 periods, 3 minutes. If the CPU utilization is less than 20%, create an alarm. Okay, done. We are create an alarm. So now if it is in alarm state, if there is no load, I mean the load is 20 below 20%, then what I need to do, I need to remove the instances by, let's say, 2. So when the maximum CPU utilization is more than 70, I'm adding 2. When the average CPU utilization is less than 20, then I'm removing 2, right? So when there is some CPU load, it will increase. When there is no load, it will decrease. The same thing like what we have seen in the Wall Street example. It will increase when there is load, it will decrease when there is no load, right? So it will not remove, it will remove up to the minimum instance count, right? Means up to 2. If there is only 2, even after 2 also the CPU utilization is less than 20, it will not remove the 2, because the minimum should be 2, so that will always run. And the same thing here as well, right? So when the CPU utilization increased, so 70, and it will add, it came down to like 50 instance it added. After that, it will, even if the CPU utilization is more than 70 also, it will not add because the limit has reached. So it's like that, right? So that is like that. So this is what basically we are creating an alarm. Once that alarm is reached, right? Once the alarm in alarm state, it will basically take the action. If it is load is less, it will remove the instances. If the load is high, it will add the instances like this. Okay, let's come down a bit and click on next, configure notifications. So this notification, the previous one is basically CloudWatch alarm notifications. So when there is an alarm in alarm state, we'll get the notifications, but these are basically the auto scaling notification, which means, so if you want notification, just click on add a notification. And when, so here you can select the, again, some same SNS topic. So what will happen whenever the new instance launches, like scale out happen, whenever it's terminate. So when the scaling is happening, when there is an issue with some issue, it's not able to launch the instances, or there is an issue, it is not able to terminate the instances. So at these kind of situations, for all these things, it will send the notifications to the selected SNS topic. So whoever is subscribed to that topic will receive whenever new instances created, whenever new instances deleted, like all these notifications will be sent. If you don't want, you can just remove it. But it's like that. So I don't want any notifications, right? Let's go to tags, and if you want, you can add some tag. Let's say I want to add the name tag. So these tags will be added to the instances which will be creating by this auto scaling group. Let's say I'll say I'm creating for the client ICOM. Let's say so ICOM WP app servers. Let's take an example. Let's app, just give it as app, make it small, right? So every instance it will create, it will have this value, this tag name. So by saying that, we can understand, okay, this is the some client application servers which are created by autoscaling. Okay, let's go to review page. This is what we just mentioned, all the things. Okay, when to add, when to remove, and all those things. Just click on create as a scaling group, then it will do all the things. So whatever mentioned. So now prior to click on create auto scaling group, if I go there and if I see that, if I just refresh here, I don't have any instances running here, which we have one, but I deleted that. If you go and see, there are no instances. And if I go and see in the load balancer also, there will not be any instances will be there. I'm just making sure that, right? Now, after creating it, it will does all the things. It will create the instances. It will automatically add to this load balancer. It will do all these things. Let's see that. Okay. Now, if you go to CloudWatch also, so we said we have to create the alarm, right? So let's go there. The CloudWatch here, and we click on here alarms. There are no alarms here. You see, no records found. Alarms also not there. So when I click on auto scaling group, it will does all these things. It does all these things. It will create the instances. It will add to the load balancer. It will create the alarm, and it will create those actions with that alarm. So all these things it will do it. Let's click on create auto scaling group. Now it's creating, right? Now it's successfully created. So sometimes when you're first doing it, you might get some kind of an error. Just click on few times retry. So here it will be there, retry option will be there. Just try clicking on retry. I mean, sometimes it might uh, give you an error. Okay, just click on retry so that it will be successfully created. Make a note of it. Just click on close. Okay, now this is the auto scaling group here. Now let's go and see here, refresh. Now we see two instances have been automatically created, and you can see that it's initializing, right? It has that tag also, icon WP app server. And if I go to the load balancer and see that, I'll just open the load balancer in a new tab. And you see, and if I go to the instances, those two instances added, and you see it's already in service, right? Great. And if I go to the CloudWatch, you see that it's created the two CloudWatch alarms as well, but it's insufficient data because it's just now created, right? And it will take some time to get the information because it's now just created. And if you go to the monitoring, and you see that we have enabled the detailed monitoring, you see that 1 minute interval is there. Okay, so this how basically we did it. That's right. Now if we want to access the application, simple, we just copy this DNS name of the load balancer. We'll access the application. Now we are able to access the application. Okay, great. Right now it is served using the two web servers, right? We have, I mean, in the load balancer we have two. Now what we'll do here, first we'll do the uh, we'll select the, I mean, we'll do the test on that auto scaling features. As I told that when there is some load, it need to add. When there is no load, it need to remove, right? So for that, we have seen there is a stress utility in the in Windows, right? So the similar we have in Linux also we have that, and that is also here also we call it as stress utility only. So there is a stress hyphen command PDF file will be there. So this file will give you, document will give you like how we can install that stress utility in Linux and how you can configure it to make that instance CPU utilization heavy. So we cannot wait, right? So we don't know like when it will, the CPU utilization goes up. So we want to manually do it. So that's why we'll use this stress utility. So I'll just connect to the instances using the mobile XTEM client. So you can use Windows also in this example. Instead of Linux, you can use Windows and then you use that same stress utility. What we just need is basically it needs the CPU to be utilized. Then it will create the alarm. That alarm will increase the instances. Simple. Okay. So let's go to session, add a new server. So we, as we discussed that if the CPU utilization is more than 70% for any instance, maximum I told, right? So one instance is fine. We don't need to like make the in the multiple instances to be the CPU utilization is more. So if one instance is fine, it's fine. I mean, if we make it to some kind of a utilization, it will be fine. Okay, let's go to here. Prod key, right? Okay, add instances. Let's do it. Okay, so once we logged in, we'll go to root, shift into root by executing this command. Now to install this tool, right? So here you need to run this command yum install. Just copy this command, it will install the tool. Okay, okay, it's already installed, right? And then next to increase the increase the CPU utilization, so you have to run this command. Just copy this command and run it. Simple, right? So let's paste it and run. Like this you can run it. Okay, I'll just, to cancel it, just press Control C, it will cancel. To run, enter that. To cancel it, Control C. Now I will create a duplicate session as well. It's a duplicate tab. Now we have in Windows Task Manager to check the CPU utilization and all those things, right? In Windows, this Task Manager, right? If we go to the Performance tab, we can see it, the CPU utilization and all those things, RAM utilization and all. So the same way in Linux also we have a Task Manager. So do you guys, anybody have any idea what is the Task Manager called in Linux? Okay, I got only from one. Okay, the basically the command is, okay, it's two, right? Got it. We can use the top command, right? So TOP. So when I click on TOP, it will give us here the load. It's basically what is the command. I mean, sorry, what is the CPU utilization and all those things. So here, if you can see this, where here it will be give us the information, the CPU utilization, the memory utilization. So here it will be given. Now we can see that it's almost memory utilization is 000, and even the CPU utilization is also kind of 000. Nothing much running actually. But if I run that command again, and if you go back and see that, now we see the stress commands are running here, and you see the memory utilization is some kind of okay, but you see the CPU utilization 25, 25, 25, 25. So if you combine all these things, how much you'll get? 100%, right? It is like utilizing it. So if I want to cancel it, simple enter Control C, it will come down to normal. Now you see there is no CPU utilization much, 0, 0, 0 kind of. Okay, so I'll not start right away. Now let's go and see this is what is the CPU utilization of it. It's not normal, so it's around 40 because we just run, right? But what we specified, if it is more than 70, then it will, the alarm will be in alarm state and then it will execute some action. So if I go there and if you see now, uh, what is the current state when there is no load, what is the current state of the alarms now? So this is in OK state. What is this one? This is it's saying that CPU utilization is more than 70% for 3 minutes. Is the CPU utilization more than 70%? No, there's no CPU utilization. So that's why it's in OK state, right? And where in this one, in the CPU utilization is what, less than 20 per 3 minutes, right? So now here, now current utilization is obviously less than 20%. So that's why what happened, this is in alarm state. So when this is in alarm state, what action it need to execute? It need to remove the two instances, -2, right? But what is the current instance count? Only 2, right? So that's why it will not make it -2. If it is 4 or 10, something like that, then it is in alarm state, it will -2 it will do that, right? But now we have only two instances running, sorry, two instances running here, so that's why it is not doing anything. Even if that is alarm state also, it's not doing anything, right? Okay, now let's go and increase the load. Now current instances are just only 2 because the load is not more than 70, right? So let's go and make the load, run this one. I just run it and here you can see it will start hitting. So sometimes while running you might get an issue here, so the command will fail. So in that case, what you can do, here you have some 256M, right? So 256M means I am asking this utility to use 256 MB of RAM. If you get some issues while running, somebody got this issue, so what you do, instead of 256, enter 128 here, 128M, and run it. It will run. Okay, it's like that. Now you see it's like 25, so CPU 100%. So the same thing we can see here at some point of time. Now it's came down. Now you can see it's every 1 minute is giving. Okay, we have to wait. We have to wait for that thing to be manipulated here, that information to be manipulated here. And if we go and see the what is the CloudWatch alarm states now, it's both are in OK. If both are in OK, nothing will happen, right? So let's wait. And there are only two instances here, right? Obviously, that's why now it's came back to 100%, right? But just it's only 1 minute, right? It's 1 point. We need 3 minutes, 3 points, 3 data points. This is just only one data point, so it will not make into the alarm state. If you go and see that, refresh, it is not still, it is still in OK state, right? This 70, more than 70% of it, it's not in alarm state. Okay, let's wait. So anyway, we are running that command, so it will obviously increase that load. We don't need to worry about that. We'll wait for 2 more minutes and then it will make that happen. So we are just waiting here. Now you can see it's the second point is also there, which is 98.852 something. Again, this is also kind of what, more than 70%. So but still it will not be in alarm state, this one, it's in OK state only. And anyway, after 1 minute this will come. So let's just close it and see the count of instances. Now we have only two instances now, right? Running, we have only two instances. Let's wait. So after the 1 minute, this will be in alarm state. Once this is in alarm state, what action it need to execute? It need to add the instances. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. So first this need to be happen. The CloudWatch alarm need to be in alarm state. I'll wait for one more minute. Now we can see this is came back to alarm state, which is CPU utilization is more than 70%, right? And then what will happen? It need to execute the action. What action it will do? It will add the two instances. Just refresh. Now we see it started adding two instances as well. It's in pending state, right? It will add these two instances will be added to our load balancer as well. If we go and refresh here, it's just added, right? So just wait here. Now we can see it's added, but it's out of service too often because it's just now added, right? So it will take some time because it needs to pass that health checks and all. So once they pass that health checks, the period, then you see it's came as in service. Now our application will be running with what? 4 instances. Now I'll just copy and access this application. Now application will be run with how many instances? It's running with 4 instances now. It's like that. Now it will run. And you can see later it will add. Now you can see it has that tag is also added automatically. Now we have increased, right? Now what I'll do, I'll go and remove this one because we have added. So when the load is more than 70%, it added, right? Now when the load is reduced, it needs to remove that, right? It needs to remove that. So what I'll do, I will now cancel this by pressing Ctrl C. So I'm decreasing the load. Now you can see it's 0.3, 0.2 something. Okay, great. Now if we decrease the load, what need to happen? It need to decrease the instances. It need to do the -2. So from 4, it will need to do the -2, right? So but it will take some time. It will take some time to be deleted. So till the time, what we'll do is we'll take a break for 10 minutes, and within the 10 minutes what will happen, it will complete that thing, remove the two instances, and then after the break we'll see like what are the other things we can discuss on the. So these are basically, it will automatically scaling, increasing, and as well as decreasing. Okay, so this is the same concept they are using in that Wall Street example. Okay, chalo guys, take a break for 10 minutes. Once we come back, we'll see. Thank you. Have a break. So let's first go and see the alarm status here. And now if you see, so the alarm states have been shifted, right? So this is previously in alarm state, right? So when this was in alarm state, it has created like two instances more. But now what happened when we removed that load, right? When I removed that load, right? So this is came back to okay state. Now the CP utilization is not more than 70%, and this one is basically what the it is in alarm state because the CPU utilization is less than 20. So when this is in alarm state, what it needs to do, it needs to remove the two instances, right? It needs to remove the two instances. Now we have four. If I just refresh here, now we can see that two have been removed and we are only running with just two. We're only running with the just two. And if we go and see in the load balancer as well, it has been removed. Now we have just only two, right? So this is how basically the auto scaling will increase and as well as decrease the instances based on our criteria. Okay, and here you can see this is basically the auto scaling group. So if you want to modify some settings like minimum settings, maximum settings, grace period, you want to do some change, right? So what you can do, so select your auto scaling group, go to the actions, and you can edit or delete. You can click on edit so that you can go and change. So whatever the uh, things you want to change it, you can go and change it here. Okay, so these are basically the minimum, maximum, and all those things we can ch change it. But remember that only the auto scaling group is editable, which can modify, but launch configuration we can't edit it. You can either copy and create a new one or delete. You cannot edit. Launch configuration is means what? While creating the instances, which configuration it need to use. So if you want to change maybe AMI, a different EMI or a different instance type and all those things, what you can do is create a new launch configuration and then associate that new launch configuration with the auto scaling group. This change from demo to new thing. It's like that. So if you want to change something, you can do it. So here, when you select, we have like some tabs here. We just click on it, details. It will give us the detailed description tab kind of. And if you go to the activity history, we'll be able to see like what actually happened and at what time happened, what it did, and all those things we'll see. Now you can see launching two instances first. Again, when we increase the load, it launches two more instances, and then when remove the load, it has been terminated the two instances. So it's just an activity history, how many added, how many removed, it will give us. And the scaling policies, so if you want to edit the scaling policies, you can edit here. You can see the decrease group size and as well as the increase group size. Okay, and then instances, so how many instances are there, what is the state and all, you can do that. The monitoring, okay, and then notifications, tagging, so all these things normal will do it. And there is a scheduled actions and life cycle hooks. Scheduled action means, let's say now what we did, we created the scaling in such a way that when there is load it will increase, when there is no load it is decreased, right? But let's say you want to have some at scheduled time, let's say a fixed time, you want to maybe add some instances, and at a scheduled time you want to remove the instances. I mean fixed time, you know. So let's say you want to run some something, some sale only for 1 hour or maybe just 5 hours kind of. Then what you can do, you can go for the scheduled actions where you create a scheduled action, you specify what is the minimum size, what is the maximum size, and when it need to occur, right? And what is the start time. Do it need to occur like every 5 minutes, every day, or every week, right? Or just only once it need to happen? That thing you can mention here. So here you might see there is one more thing called desired capacity. So what is this desired capacity means? So minimum we mentioned 2, maximum we mentioned 50, right? So desired capacity means you can mention more than your minimum. Let's say I mentioned 4. So what is this desired capacity here is means? So basically AWS will have the at their data centers they will be having the physical servers and all those things, right? They'll be having it. So now what we are doing, we are just utilizing the servers from that stock, from their idle stock we are utilizing it. So let's say in any case, in some case, at some point of time there is no stock available in AWS data centers, but we want some servers, right? So what I said, minimum is 2. Minimum is 2 means obviously AWS will create for you minimum 2 instances for sure. But if it has a stack, it may increase up to 4. It didn't have the enough capacity at the AWS I'm talking about, at the AWS data centers. If you don't have, minimum 2 for sure. If you specify desired is 4, then it will try to make it 4 if possible. If not, it will be 2. It's like that. Desired capacity means like if you want to specify more than your minimum, then you can go with it. So which means this desired capacity means when AWS can afford you more instances, it will do it. If not, then it will not do it. It's like that, right? So that is what basically the design concept. And there is one more thing, a life cycle hooks. This life cycle hooks means, let's say here previously what happened, first 2 instances created and then 2 more instances added. Okay, so now the instances are creating for an AMI, from an AMI, right? You have a custom application, and after creating the instance, after autoscaling creating the instance, you need to do some steps manually. You need to do some things, or maybe autoscaling created some instances, for it make it 4, right? So when the load goes down, what will happen? The instances will deleted, right? Instance will delete. But prior to deleting it, you want to do some things maybe in the instances, like you want to take the logs from the instances which are going to be deleted. You want maybe something from that uh, instances which are going to be deleted, you want to take something, right? So in that case, what you can do, you can use this life cycle hooks. This life cycle hook basically means, so if you create a life cycle hook, you can specify some time which is called heartbeat timeout, right? So by default it is like 3600, which is 1 hour. So um, basically whenever the instance is either deleting the instances or creating the instances, so if we specify this life cycle hook, let's say if I specify 3600, the default value, which is means 1 hour. So if I specify 1 hour means AWS will stop creating, it will create the instances, but it will not add to the load balancer for 1 hour. Means the first 1 hour after creating the instances, it will not take any log, that they will be in kind of a standby mode or a pending mode. They will not do anything. So in that time, what you can do, you can go and if you want to do some custom modifications, you can do it. Or maybe you want to do it while terminating the instances. Like instance, let's say instance terminate I want. So while instance terminating, I want to wait for, let's say 1 hour is kind of a very big time. Let's say I will just go with mainly half an hour or 15 minutes. So which I specify in the seconds. I'll create that. So what will happen? While instances are ready to terminate, when there is no load, it will terminate. But this life cycle hook will tell auto scaling, okay, wait for 30 minutes. Don't delete right away, because there is a life cycle hook defined for 30 minutes, right? Then you go and in that 30 minutes, you go and take the logs or whatever you want to do, you examine. So, I mean, if you want to do some things, you can do it. This is what life cycle, just it will pass either the termination or creation for some time that you can mention in seconds. It's like that. That is the only thing. And if you want to do some custom actions once the instances is ready to be added to auto scaling or ready to be terminated from auto scaling, that is what life cycle hooks. Okay, so this is what basically the auto scaling is all about, how we do it. And there is one more thing which I need to tell you here. Now minimum what we mentioned 2, right? The value is 2. So there is one more feature. It's a very simple thing. What I'll do now, we mentioned 2. I will go and stop one instance. We'll see what will happen. I'm stopping the instances. Remember this. Okay. Where you're talking life cycle hooks, you're use about Rupesh. I mean, while creating the instances, you want to pass for some time, or while deleting the instances, you want to pass for some time. That is the only use case. If you don't want to do any some customizations prior to delete or prior to adding to the load balancer, you don't need to worry. If there is something is there, that is the option. That's it. Okay, now I'm stopping the instance. Let's see what auto scaling will do. Okay, I'm stopping the instance. I didn't terminate it. Okay, I shut it down. Right, I stopped. I clicked on stopped. Let's see what it will do. Now you see the instance is stopped. So by default, what we decided, what we mentioned, 2 is the thing, right? 2 is the thing, right? Now 1 is stopped. So what it will do? Let's see what the auto scaling will do now. What is launch configuration? Oh my God. You're not there, Nalin, in the yesterday session. If you know, if you're there means you know that what is launch configuration. We already discussed. Okay, I stopped the instance, but now you see what happened. It is shutting down. You see what's happening. It is now you see it's terminated. That instance have been terminated, right? And we'll see what it will do again and again. We'll see just for some more time. Now you see there is one more instance it is creating. So we have terminated this instance. No, we have not terminated. Sorry. What we did, we have stopped it, right? So this feature, what is called, I mean, this feature in auto scaling, we call it as self healing or auto healing. Means when I said auto scaling to run minimum 2 instances, right? So because of any issue, if those 2 instances are not running, or if the one instance is not running, what auto scaling will do is auto scaling will not try to start the instance, or auto scaling will not try to troubleshoot anything. It will simply what it will, if there's maybe a health check failed, status health check failed or something like that, so what it will do, simply it will terminate that instance, 1 or 2, whatever that count may be, right? So and then in the place of those terminated instances, it will launch the fresh new instances using the launch configuration. This is what we call it as the self-healing nature of the auto scaling. Okay, so this is what basically the auto scaling is all about. This is a very highly utilized, widely used, opted service in AWS. Okay, and let's have any questions on it prior to we moving to the one more service. I explained desired capacity only, right? Just now. So it started other instance healing failing instance. No, it will not heal the failed instance. That's what I'm saying. It will not troubleshoot. It will not try to start. If there is some instances failed, health check failed or stopped or something happened, it will not do anything. It will just simply terminate that instance. In the place of that, so if one is terminated, only one is left, right? But we mentioned two. So in the place, it needs to make it minimum two. So that's why it added one more. It's like that. So if max is 3 and the CPU utilization is more than 100%, then will it create 2 plus 2 or instance will limit only 3? See, when you specify max is 3, how can you add 2 instances, Vijay? Your configuration is wrong, right? You're saying max is 2, max is 3. How can you add plus 2 then? You can add plus 1 only then. What is the main purpose of using hook life cycle? I mean, the core advantage of using these options. I mean, if after auto scaling created the instances, right? If you want to do some custom things at the server level, or maybe at the termination, let's say uh, when there is a load, auto scaling will add the instances, right? So till the load is there, that servers will be in service and it will take the request and all those things will do it, right? So after the load is over, it will terminate. So prior to terminating, if you want to just see the how the I mean what are the logs captured in that instance in that operating system, maybe after some time you may want to go through the logs and all those things, then you can use that lifecycle hook for maybe half an hour and 1 hour. So prior to terminate, you go and grab the logs, and you maybe later you just verify what happened, how it happened, like that. This is kind of one use case. Minimum two, maximum three is fine, Vijay, but when there is load, how many you want to add? So in that case, will it give any warning? No, it will not give any warning and all. Because I have not tested this kind of scenario. If you want, you test it out. I mean, your configuration should be proper. And I don't know, like how you're thinking that you want to make some configuration improper and want to test it. You do something R&D on that. You'll know few things. Okay. Will be backed while the instance terminated. I didn't get that. What is that means? So pricing for desired and beyond should be different. No, it's not that. Pricing for it's all the same. So desired is basically means if AWS has the capacity, it will add. If doesn't have, then it will go with the minimum. Whatever the minimum is there, it will do it. Simple. So the thing is, if you just want to understand, just think that. So you want always your, let's say your instances should be, let's say you want 4, but if there is no capacity from AWS, minimum is 2 is fine for you. So if AWS can give 4, you are happy. If not, if they give 2 also, it's fine. So but 2 should be there. This is, it should be there. This is if they can give, like, it's fine. Okay, I can have more instances, more resources. It's kind of that. If we keep max instances 10 and in a scale out scenario, we have kept utilization CPU greater than, then add 4 instances, right? Obviously we can do that. Beyond desired is not, no, it's not like that. Beyond, see, max is 50. So this is more than 50. You said max is 50, so it will not be more than 50. While created the new instance, when it is terminated, whether the config will be there in the new instance. Which config you're talking about, Ashok? I mean, see, the instance will be created from the AMI, right? So whatever the AMI is, the configuration does it has. So the same configuration will be there in the instance. It's simple. So there is one more simple thing here is called a default cooldown, which is 300 seconds. Okay. So what is this 300 default? 300 is basically means, so cooldown period, we can call it as cooldown period, right? So it is also some kind of a interview question. So by default it's 300 seconds. You can, if you want, you can mention, I mean, change it. So if you go and edit here, you can go and change it also. Like if you want the edit and just come down a bit, I think where is that? Yeah, here, default cooldown period. So you can change it. So what is this cooldown period is actually means, let's say as per our configuration, if the CPU utilization is more than 70, right? Then what will happen? It will add 2 instances. Okay. At 10 a.m. in the morning, there is a CPU utilization more than 70, it added 2 instances. Right. Okay. Now, but still the CPU utilization is not reduced. It is still even 10.01, it's more than 70. 10.02 more than 70, 10.03 more than 70, 4 more than 70. So here, once some scale activity happened, it might be out or inactivity, whatever it is. Out means adding instances, in means removing instances. So once the activity happened, now at 10 a.m. it happened plus 2, the activity scale out happened, right? Now once the scale out happened, the cooldown period will start. Cooldown period means what? It is 300 seconds. So it will start the 300 seconds. So from 10:02, what is 5 minute? 10:05. So within these 5 minutes, even if the CPU utilization increased or decreased, the activities, the scale activities will not happen within that 5 minutes, the cooldown period. Then after the cooldown period completed, it will see what is the current state. If it is even greater than 70, right, greater than 70, then it will add plus 2. If it is less than 70, I mean less than 20, as per our configuration, it will remove. So basically what is this cooldown period is a time period between the scale out or scale in activities. So it might be out to out, or it might be out to in, whatever it is, whatever that activity. So right. So in between two scale activities, this period will be there. This is just to make sure that so when you add the instances, right, so it will take some time to create the instances, to come in service, and to take the load, it will take some time, right? So you have to be give that time to the auto scaling, I mean to the load balancer. uh, Basically it will take some 2 to 3 minutes kind of, right, to create and all those things based on that grace period and all those things. So once that completed, then only it will, these new instances will take the request and load will try to reduce. But within the 2 to 3 minutes, even the utilization is more than 70, because obviously it will take time to 1 or 2 minutes to create the instances. Even within that time also, you'll try to add instances, means what? So unnecessarily you're like adding the resources, right? So for that reason, this default cooldown period will be used. It will pass the scaling activity once something happened at some time. For this time, whatever it is, 300 seconds, 600 seconds, whatever you can mention, it's up to you. So this is what basically the cooldown period. It might be an interview question, remember that. And one more thing is that when we create auto scaling group, it created all the resources, right? When we go and delete the auto scaling group, it will delete all the resources. Remember this, very careful. It will delete the instances and it will delete everything. It will not make any backups. Okay, remember this. It will not. It will remove from load balancer and it will delete the instances. Whatever it's created, it will delete. We didn't create we created load balancer manually, so load balancer will not be deleted because we did manually. It's not auto scaling created that resource, right? So it's like that. So when you clone delete it, what will happen? It will delete the instances and all those things. Let's go and see that. After some time, this also will be terminated. Okay, make sure that, remember, if you want to take any backups and all those things, do a backup prior to delete and then delete it. Okay. Okay, next start with the one more service. It's kind of also very what you can say, it's kind of a very widely opted used service. And I think after this service you can have the full overview of AWS in the organizations. I mean, now you can say you will be able to understand like how normally in the internet websites and applications are working. When you open some website, what will happen in the background, you'll be able to understand. Okay, so this route 53 or route 53, as I told in the first session that, so this is the one service where we don't have free tier concept. So everything in this route 53 is what? It's cost effective. There's no free tier for it. Okay, and in that case what I'll do, so I'll share my account credentials. I'll share my account credentials. So only this particular service, okay, only this particular service route 53 you practice on my account. Remaining all the auto scaling, AMI, CC2, load balancer, RDS you practice on your account only. Because anyway that comes under free tier, right? Right. And one more thing I forgot to say, that auto scaling is a free service. The launch configurations and auto scaling group. So whatever the resources it will create, right? That resources will basically comes under the pricing. I mean, if you create a free tier one, like instance and all those things, you will not be charged. If you create another configurations like instance types and a storage, which are not comes under free tier, you will be charged. But the auto scaling feature is free. Okay, that's what the good thing is. Then we'll come back to here route 53. Okay, so this route 53 is actually, it's a DNS service. Means it's a DNS service provided by AWS. Does anybody have any idea what is DNS? What is DNS? Does anybody have idea? Okay, URL to IP, domain name system, mapping of a name to IP. Okay, which maps name to address, true, resolves name and IP address, true, FQDN basis. If we want to launch any website or web application, then we need DNS. Conversation happen, it will allocate some space. Lookup zone, forward lookup zone. Okay. Okay, so I think seems like a few people have some kind of an idea. The basic idea is what is DNS, right? So DNS means domain name system or domain name service. So you can call it as both, as a system or service, right? So if you understand DNS, then we can know that what is route 53 means. Okay, so what is DNS? So to just give you an idea, I'll take two simple examples so that you can understand what I'm talking about. What is DNS is, within two examples I will tell you, you'll understand. Okay, so in the when this phones started in some around like 10-15 years ago, this I mean at that time not smartphones, just the cell phones, right? Nokia started, or some I'm not sure exactly who started it, right? So when it first started, the cell phones, the mobile phones era, when it first started, only few people have the mobiles, right? Only few people has that. Sorry. So at that time, what people used to do, people used to remember the mobile numbers, because at that time only few people were there. But then later, mobile phones like started to increase. I mean, people have started using more and more mobile phones. Then now, now at this point of time, at least one person have one number. At least one number they have. In some cases, you might have more than one also, one, two, something like that, right? So now minimum one is there almost. Now in these days, so you have your relations, your colleagues, your friends, your family members, and your friends at different level. I mean, your friends at different levels, childhood, your graduation, your plus two level, right? So always uh, you'll be having your friends at your hometown, where you stay. So it's a big number of people we know, right? So it's hard to remember the numbers of those people. So what we normally do, we are basically using the small thing in our smartphones which called contacts feature. We'll use contact feature. So what is that contact feature is all about? So we'll just assign a name to a number and we'll save it in the our phone, right? We'll assign a name, some name. Let's you have my number. Then what I'll do, what you guys will do, you'll create a contact with Satish AWS or something like that, and then name something XYZ, some number, you'll do it. And when you want to call Satish, what you'll do, you'll not search with the number, right? You'll search with the name. So you open your contacts and you search with the name, and then you call. So let's say, take a simple example that you created the contacts with your family members, your mother, father, your sister, brother, whoever, basically your family, right? So you created a contact with your various family, right? Now you created it, great. And let's say you created your father and your mother, and you gave some number in that, right? Let's take something. So whatever that number is, and if you want to call to your mother or your dad, what you did, what you normally do, you open your contact feature and search your dad name, and just press the button or click on call button on the dad. So your mobile phone will not know like who is your father or who is your mother, right? It will not know who is your dad and all. What it will do, simply your phone will see what is the associated number with that name, right? And then it will make a call to that number. And then obviously if it is your dad number, so your dad phone rings, he will answer the call, and then you'll have a conversation. Done. So what is actually it's happening here? So you are basically create some name and you're calling with some name. I mean, you're using that name, but the phone will see like what is the associated number, right? And then one more example I will do it. We'll use, I think people these days using a lot this application called Truecaller. I think everybody knows it, right? Everybody knows this application, Truecaller. Okay, great. So I'll just sign into this application. Just a second. I want to show this. I mean, everybody knows this. What is this and all? I don't need to explain. So I need just one number from anybody. I just need one phone number from you. Anybody, if you're. Oh, I got from Sandeep. Okay, thanks. That's fine. Okay, I logged in. So I got from Sandeep. Let's take. I got from even from different people also. Let's take the Sandeep number here. And I search with Sandeep number here. What I'm doing, I'm not searching with name here. I'm searching with number, right? Just click on search. So it will search in its database with that number, and you see it's came. What it did, it gave me the number, some name associated with this number. So this, with this number, this is the name. This is guy is basically Sandeep, right? And let's say Harpal is also given. Let's try with him as well. I'll search with Harpal Singh as well. Let's search Harpal's number. Now you see Harpal Singh, it's came, right? So what happened? So I mean, somebody came given also. That's fine. I mean, I don't want to take much here, right? You understand what I'm trying to say, right? So here, two examples. One is contact feature and the one is true color. So here, when we are searching with number, what is doing? It is searching in its database and giving us the name. Here, we are just referring to the name, but the phone is actually making the call to the associated number, right? Right. So this, so if we just now replace that mobile number with the IP address and then replace the names with the, in the internet, what the names will be having, domain names, website names, right? www.facebook.com, twitter.com, crickbuzz.com, something like that, right? So we'll be having the names. So what is DNS is basically is, by simple these things we can understand, right? So when we access Google website, or when we want to access Facebook, how we are accessing? We are accessing using the name, same like what we are doing in the contact feature. So when we open some name, facebook.com or twitter.com, right? So your system or your laptop doesn't know where actually the Facebook site, the website is hosted. So obviously the facebook.com or twitter.com, amazon.in, flipkart.com, whatever it is, will not be, will be hosted, sorry, will be hosted in some server. It will be, there will be in some location, but it doesn't know. I mean, my laptop didn't know that, or my internet didn't know that, right? So what it will do, it will simply, right, it will check, it will see with that name what is the associated number, same like here, what is the associated number. So it will get some IP address of the Facebook server or Twitter server where actually the website is hosted. Then using that address, the request will go to that server. Okay, request will go to that server and then the application will open. Simple. The same thing here. Let's say if you give IP address to DNS, let's say, what it will do, it will search in its database, same like Truecaller, and it will tell you what is the website name which is associated with that number, means with that address, right? So these two concepts actually done by DLS, these two things done by DNS, that's it. Okay, so what actually DNS, what it does is that it will do this name to IP, we call it as resolution. In the technical terms, we call it as resolution. So name to IP resolution or IP to name resolution. If we give name, it will give us the IP address. If we give the IP address, it will give the name. Name to IP and IP to name resolution. So this resolution from name to IP, we call it as forward resolution. This resolution is a reverse for this, right? So we call it as reverse resolution. That's it. So this is what basically the job of a DNS. Understand? Anybody have any questions? What is DNS and all? Simple, very simple. Right? So, okay, this is what the DNS job we understood. Great. Now, how these names will come into picture? Facebook.com, Twitter.com, Google.com, Amazon.in, something like that. So in our phones, like we'll create the own names. If you want to save your dad number as dad, you save it your dad. If you want, you say father, you say father, or papa, whatever, nana, whatever the language, right? So which language you want to call, whatever you want to do, you do it. You create it. The same with like mother, mom, right? You amma, whatever like you say. So which you want to, you can save it. So here, when you're starting a business, when somebody, your client or maybe you starting a business and you want your business on online, your business should have some name, right? Your business will have some name. As we have some names, your business will have some name. So with that name, what we'll do, we'll buy a domain. We'll buy a domain. And where we can buy those domains, so there are some domain registrars will be there. Domain registrars will be there. So what their job is, basically they will register the domains. Same like if you so these are all some of the domain registrars like Big Rock and HostGator, GoDaddy. I think everybody knows this one most, right? Let's go to GoDaddy here. So GoDaddy is basically the domain registrar. So for your business, if you want some domain name, you can buy it here. So it's same like, so you have to buy a name which is not already bought by somebody. It's like a phone number. So if somebody has some phone number, some fancy number, you cannot buy that same. It should be unique, right? So the same way, so your business will have some name. So with that name, you can buy a domain. The same like Google bought their domain, the same like Facebook bought their domain, and all those things, right? So now we can see when I search google.com, it's already there. It's already registered by Google. They already bought it. So that's why it's saying, sorry, it's not there. Right? So whatever you want, like what are the domain you want, you can just go ahead and search for it with your business name. If it is available, it says that yes, that particular domain is available. And what is the cost? So this is what the cost is. And if you pay that, you can buy it. Right? So based on the same like all the websites, what we'll do is first they will buy that name. Now, once you're by the mobile number, it's done. No, right? It's just a number, right? We need to activate it and then we need to put it in the mobile number. Then only you can take the calls. So the same way, if you buy a domain, your job is not done, right? So you have to do a lot of those things. Now you bought the domain, let's say some domain you bought it. You buy it now, click on buy it now, add to cart, checkout, done, right? So GoDaddy is one of the domain registrars where you can give the same. AWS is also one of the domain registrar where you can get the domains. So how can we do that? Let's go to the Route 53 service. So there also you can buy the domains. So under the networking and content delivery, let's go to Route 53. Okay, so here this is the landing page, or you can say that the dashboard page. So these are all the options we have. Now which one you want? Let's say you want to domain registration, right? So click on get started now. So here you can register a domain. Just click on register domain. So here you can specify so which domain you want. Let's say I want some Satish meals or something like that. Satish meals. You can buy .com, .net, .org, whatever it is, whatever you like. IO, something like that. You check, is it available or not? If it is available, they will tell you like what is the cost, and for that you just add to cart, you buy it. You can buy the domains from Route 53 also, not just only GoDaddy. So it is, AWS is one of the domain registrars. Okay, these are we can buy. Now we are not going to buy anything because I already bought, right? So I log into the account where I have the domains already there. Okay, so now, okay, this is how you can buy. But once you buy the domain, your job is not done. What you need to do, when somebody open the name on the internet, same like when I open google.com, we are getting the Google website. When we open facebook.com, we are getting the Facebook website. The same way, when somebody opens your business name on the internet, your website should open, right? Obviously. So first you need to design your website. Developers will do that. Okay, will do that. They will give it to you. And once that ready, if somebody searched with that name in the internet, and that application need to be open, what we need to do in that case, how we can do it actually, right? So when the application is ready, when your developer or some developer organization gave you the application, so what you'll do, you deploy the application in some server. It might be Linux or Windows. Then the server will have what? IP address. Okay, so you cannot give the IP address to the people, because people will not remember the IP addresses, right? As humans will not remember much IP address. So now obviously what we need to do, so if somebody opens with your name, so what we need, basically we need to map, same like how we are doing in the contact feature. What we are doing, we are creating a name and saving a name for the mobile number. The same way in the domain register, where we registered our domain, right? So in the domain register, what we'll do, we'll create a mapping. We'll say that if somebody open gravan.com, then I will associate this name with some IP address. Then once it is mapped, so if whoever basically searched in the internet my domain name, the DNS will have a large database, huge database, and it will search in the database and give the associate IP address, and the request will come to the IP address. So IP address means the server which has that IP address. So in that, what is there in the server, application will be there. So your application will be visible on the internet, HTTP, something like this. Your application will be visible. So this is what happen when you open the website. Any website, this is the same story, it will happen. Understand the concept, basically what is DNS and how it will be useful, how actually it is working in the background. When we open a website, what will happen? Anybody have any questions? This is much important. Remaining all like it's the same thing. We'll just play around with some features and options. That's it. And if you go to maybe some um, interview, prior to asking Route 53 questions, they will ask these kind of questions. They'll say that when I open the website, what will happen in the background? They'll say that, I mean, tell me the procedure, what will happen? They'll say this is what happens basically whenever you open the any website. Internal DNS means, I mean, you're talking about internal DNS server, or you're saying internal domain, you're saying, Ashok? Internal host. So you're saying internal domain only, that will be accessed within VPC, something like that. We can do that. There is an option in Route 53. We can create an internal domain also. I'll show you. Simple. If you want internal domain, let's go to Route 53. You can create the domain name because it's internal. It will not be public. So here under the dashboard, just click on hosted zones. Hosted zones means nothing but zone means the domain. Hosted zone means, okay. So here I have like two domains. So if you want to create an internal one, just click on create host zone and then specify the domain name, make it as private one. make it a private one and select which VPC you want that to be in. You can go and select the VPC ID. Let's say you want under this demo VPC for the demo VPC. So that domain will be private for within that VPC. It's like that. You can do it if you want. Got it? Okay. Now, this is what basically happens as I told, right? Now let's try to see how basically we can do it, how we can do the mapping and all those things. Now we have oh my god, we have deleted all the things, right? I think we have deleted everything, right? But we have the, I think we have the AMI, right? Yeah, we have the AMI. So quickly I will create an instance from this AMI because it has the application, right? So I don't need to install the application again. Just quickly. So my website, I'll select the Linux firewall something, review launch. Anyway, I'll not log into this instance, but I'm just making sure that, okay, I've created it. The same way I'll create some instance in London. I'll create in North Virginia as well for some um, practice and all those things. We'll see for our demonstrations and all. So maybe I will create a Windows instance here, or you can do like whatever. It's up to you, Windows or Linux. So I will open HTTP as well because I want to install web server. Oh no, key pairs found. Great. London. I'll create a key pair. Launch instance. Okay, the same way. Here I'll create maybe a Linux instance. This is Virginia. Again, I will open HTTP. What I'll do in these things is simple. I will install web server. I'll host some website, simple website. So this is a Linux one, and this is a Windows one. So this is what basically this is here. The Linux one, it has a website also. Okay. Now, how we are accessing till now, we are either using the public DNS, or we are using the IP address, or we are using the load balancer DNS name. But it is not the one actual thing we'll be using in the internet, right? We'll use proper names. Now, I have a domains here. Let's say think like this is the domain names of the your client. Now, Graven Labs or some cloudlinuxacademy.com. Now, if you want, if somebody open gravenlabs.com, you want to open the application, you want to open the application which is in this server, let's say, then what you need to do, I told you that we need to do that mapping. We need to create that mapping, domain mapping, where we can do in the DNS. So come to Route 53, come back to hosted zones, and in the hosted zones we'll create that mappings. Okay, how we can do that is simple. Just copy the IP address here. This is the IP address of the server, right? Create a record. So record means I'll tell you that mapping in the terminology we'll call it as record. Just click on create record here, the blue button, and when you click on that, in the right side you will see the options. So you will see some couple of options, don't worry. So if you didn't give any name, right, and let's say I'll not give any name, so I just want to go with only that gravenlabs.com. Then in this value field there's a big rectangle box there, right? So in that I'll specify the IP address. So what I'm doing, I'm specifying Graven Labs equal to this one. Let's click on create. Okay, now I did that. Okay, so this is what I made the change. gravenlabs.com map to this one. So now anybody in the internet, they search for this gravenlabs.com, that will be resulted mapped to this one, means the request will come to 13.233. So where is that server? Here is that server. So what if they connected on over the browser, on the browser if they enter, so which means it will connect to HTTP 80 port. So what is there in that HTTP 80 port? Web server. On that, what is there? We have installed WordPress, right? So if you are in India, so it might take some time. So it might take some time to be evaluate, because we just saved it, right? So it will take some time to be populated over the internet. So sometimes it might take some time. Okay, so what you do is, in that case, simple, in that case, if you want these things to be happen quickly, right? So you need to do in your laptop a simple change, right? But my IP is fixed and is dynamic. You know how you can make this IP as fixed, right, Rupesh? Don't you? Okay. So now uh, I just ask you to change simple thing. Open your network settings. Okay. Whatever it is, Wi-Fi or LAN in your local machine. What you do is go to the network and sharing center. What you do is in your Wi-Fi, just change the wireless properties or whatever your properties, your LAN properties. Oh, sorry, not this one. Properties. Just click on this properties. Whatever is a LAN or your Wi-Fi. In that, go to IPv4. Just double click on it, and in the DNS, just click on use following and use 8.8.8.8, all eights. That's it. Okay, just click on OK. I think you know like what I'm talking, somebody already. Just make this change so that the things will happen very quickly. Okay, now I did that change. Now if I go there and search for Graven Labs, what will happen when I open this domain gravenlabs.com? The request will go to the DNS. It will ask what is the IP address mapped to the Graven Labs. Then Route 53 will give this. Okay, this is the IP address. Go to that server. Then what is there in that server? The application. Now you see, we got the application opened, right? We are using a proper name, proper application, and everything is set. This is what basically the output. So this is what we normally see in the internet, right? So we enter the name, we get the website. Right? So this is what happened. The same way we can do multiple ways of mappings. Some people say www.somename.com, mail.google.com, something like that. So you can give different mapping names. If you want, let's say that app.gravelabs.com. If somebody open app.gravelabs.com, you want to open to the same site. Let's copy it, create, right? And just click on create, simple. Now what I did, I created this mapping app.gravelabs.com equal to mapping to the same IP. Now if somebody open app.gravelabs.com, it will also come back to the same domain, same site. Now you see it's there, it's coming. So it's up to you like what name you want to use and all those things. This is how basically you can do the basic mapping. You can do it. Okay, so let's take a break for 10 minutes, guys, and we'll see there are like a couple of more options, these mappings and all those things. We can do it in different ways and all. Okay, let's take a 10 minutes break. Once we come back, we'll see the remaining thing. Thank you. Have a break.
चाचू आपको देख रही है।
Hi guys, welcome back. Now let's get started. So we have did some basic thing. It's very basic thing here of like mapping a name to the IP address. So here while creating a record, when we click on create record, so here we'll give some name. Okay. So name basically means what are the name we want, like mail, web, mail, right? Some name will give it. Okay. And if you see here, there is an option called type here. So this is in we can call it as record type also because we are creating a record. It's a type of record. It's a record type, right? So what is this type is actually means, right? So we have two IP addresses families. We have IP address version 4, IP address version 6. Now how we can distinguish if I want to map a name to IPv4 address or IPv6 address, right? So how DNS will distinguish if it is IPv4 address or IPv6 address, so what you're actually mapping, right? So here basically the type will tell, so you have to select a specific type based on what you're giving here. So if you're giving IPv4 address, you have to select this A means caps A means IPv4 address, and you see the same thing here. So we mapped here IPv4 address, so that's why it's A we have selected. By default is the one. That is a by default one. But let's say if you're trying to associate IPv6 address to some name, let's say media.gravelapps.com, you're creating a website, but that server has an IPv6 address. In that case, the type should be quadruple A, this one. So here you can specify the IPv6 address. So I'll just take some example here and you can just place it like this. This is one of the example of IPv6 address. Okay, so like this basically you can do it. And the same way, I'll give you one more thing here. Simple, based on if it is IPv6 address, you have to select this record quadruple A. The type should be 4 years. If it is IPv4, you have to select this one. It's like that. When it should be IPv6, if your server has IPv6 address, then you go with it. So we have discussed that there is two IP addressing, right? So when somebody gave you the IPv6 address, or when you create in some location some client where they are using IPv6, then if your server has IPv4, select this one. If it is IPv6, select this one. Simple. See, we discussed about the IPv4, right? In the offline recordings. IPv4, like it's almost like we are using a lot, and at the current utilization, IPv4 is not kind of the IPv4. I mean IP addressing which we require. I mean we are like utilizing a more and more people are using internet, connecting to the internet daily. So IPv4 has some around 14 billion addresses. So at some point of time that will not be sufficient. So we need a bigger pool of IP addresses. You remember, you can recollect now. But public IP address changes after every reboot. IP address will not change after reboot, Abhishek. It will change only after shutdown and start. But we have discussed that can you make the IP address will not change. That we already discussed. What is that concept, Abhishek? We discussed that. What is that concept name? I want the answer from Abhishek. How can we make an IP address fixed? If we stop and start also, this should not change. How can we do that? VPC. What is there in VPC? Every server will be created in VPC only. Even the public IP, which will normally change, will also be created in VPC. Okay. You have to practice. That's what I'm saying. If you practice it, I mean, by now you'll know the answer. I mean, a lot of people, others are giving the answers actually. Okay. I mean, I don't want to give you the answer. You go and do it, recollect and do the practice. I do not give you the answer as well. Okay. So here while creating, we can select IPv4 or IPv6 address. The same way, let's go to here. One more thing. If we want to open mail, what we'll do? We'll open mail.google.com, right? Mail.google.com. Okay. What is the name I'm giving? You see, mail.google.com. Let's open. I opened what? Mail.google.com, right? What is elastic IP and what is static IP? Harpal, both are same. Public IP is dynamic IP. Okay. And if you see, I opened mail.google.com, right? But what is actually opened here? accounts.google.com. Why it is like this? Okay, so what actually Google did here is that, so they create the record mail.google.com, map it to accounts.google.com, right? So we can also do this. We can also do this. How we can do this? Simple. In the Route 53, so the type, so we can select CNAME. So if you want to map, let's say, if somebody open, 1 second, guys. Hi guys, I am back. Sorry. Okay. Let's see that. So if you want to map a name to another name, right? So what you can do, you can use a CNAME. Means here you can say that, okay, media dot something, I can map it to some Amazon dot AWS dot some dot com, something like this. We can do it. So we can map a name to another name. So when this will be useful is, Let's say when we create a load balancer will have what? DNS name, right? So that load balancer DNS name you can mention here. Load balancers will not have the IP address, right? So like this, if you can see, somebody created some of our, I mean, my previous batch student created web.grammarlabs.com. Some name is pointed to, you see, some DNS name. For this, he is created like this. He is mapped to some load balancer. You can see that is created in some ELB. Is mapped that, right? So I mean, you can map it to any name. I'm saying. So whatever that load balancer will have the DNS name. Even row, even RDS also will have some names, right? Endpoint names. If you want to do that, you can also do it. So it's like that. So this is what I mean. There are a couple of options there, but I mean these are mostly used. A, CNAME, and quadruple. Remaining are like we will not use it because it's more or less the stuff of a, I mean the job of a DNS administrators or system administrators or network administrators. We don't need to do much. So this is what more than enough for us, right? For us to know the things. Now these are basically we can create the mappings and all. And the one more thing is that when we create some name, so we can map, let's say, multiple names, multiple IP addresses also. We can map multiple names and multiple IP addresses also. Like this, you can say there's an example here. It's mapping to two IP addresses. Just you need to enter multiple IP addresses by entering like this. You can enter. You can add multiple IP addresses here. So you can map, I mean, any IP address, whatever it is. You click on create. Now you see that this one is basically mapped with multiple IP addresses. Like we save the contacts, we can save a name with multiple numbers, right? I mean, under one contact, we can have primary, secondary kind of like that. So this also we can do it. So in this kind of situation, so if we have one name, it will go to that. But if we have multiple names, what will happen? It will do the round robin actually. Round robin means if first you send a request, it will go to here. Second, it will go to here. Third, it will go to here. Like this, it will do the round robin. If you have multiple IP addresses, it will does the round robin like this. So this is also you can do. So these are just basically how you can create the mappings and all those things. Okay. So now here we are just mapping. Okay. But there is two more important concepts in Route 53. These are just the basic. One is called health checks and the other is the routing policies. So let's go with these health checks first. Now to do the health check, right? So we have discussed the health check concept in the load balancing already, if you have recollect, right? So we already understand that. C names means it's not one name to multiple names, Rupesh. So what you're mapping is basically that the thing here. Let's say if you see here, here I mapped one IP address, here I mapped multiple IP address, right? So one name I mapped to multiple IP addresses, here one name. So the same way, if you want one name to be mapped to another name, you can do it. If you want multiple names also, you can do it. But if you want to map, I mean, if you want to a record, I mean, if you want a domain name, map it to a name like a DNS name or endpoint name, you might see in the load balancers, RDS instances and all those things, or public DNS of the EC2 instance. You want to do that, then you need to use the CNAME record. If you want to map to a name, if it has a public IP, then go with based on IPv4 is A, IPv6 is quadruple A, like this. If you want to map one names or multiple names, it's up to you. Both the options are allowed. Okay, let's here we're talking about, okay, so this health check concepts, right? So now here we already discussed the health checks in load balancer. So what is health check in load balancer? What it does? It basically checks the health of the instances. How it checks the health? It uses that ping protocol and the port number, and if it is application layer protocols like HTTP or HTTPS, it does the path also. It will check the file name or path. If it is just the uh, level 4 protocols like TCP or SSL, it will only just check the port number and service, right? So if the health check passes, load balancer basically route the traffic. If it is not, if the health check fails, it will not route the traffic to the instances, right? So here also route 53 can also does the same concept, I mean similar thing, health checks. So it can also check the health of the instances. It can also check the health of the instances, same concept, nothing difference. Okay, now let's try to do create a health check. Just click on create a health check to create the health check, and let's try to check the health using route 53 for, let's say, this Mumbai WP server. We have this server, right? So let's copy the IP address here, come back to here, and here you give him some name for that. Let's say Mumbai server IP or health check, whatever, you give some name. Okay, and you can monitor other health checks if you already created, or you can monitor a state of a CloudWatch alarm, right? But we don't need that. We just go with the endpoint. Okay, the basic things. And here you can check the health by an IP address or a domain name. Domain name means, let's say, if you want to check the health of a load balancer or maybe RDS or a EC2 instance with the public DNS, you can use domain name. Or if you want to go with IP address, let's select IP address. So whatever it is. So that IP address you have to mention here in the IP address field. And in the protocol, you have to select which protocol you want, HTTP or HTTPS or TCP, whichever the one you can go and select. So if you select HTTP, then you can have the option of path, HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, because it's application layer protocols. If you select TCP, it will just the port number. So it's up to you, like which how you want to do the health check. Okay, and let's go with the 80 port. The port is what, 80. Okay, I want to check port 80 on this instance. Okay, now in the advanced configuration, we might see some things like what we have seen in the um, load balancer health check advanced details, like we'll be having interval and all those things, right? So it's same thing. Stand request interval is what, standard 30 seconds. If you want fast, you can go with 10 seconds. You can go with 10. It's up to you, like which one. But these are all predefined. You cannot say 5 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. There's no way. There's only two options we have. And failure threshold, which means after how many failed responses, or after how many the instances where it cannot reply back, where it cannot responded, right? So to make that instance is unhealthy, that health check is unhealthy, then this is what failure threshold, right? And then if you want to disable health check, you're just creating it, but you don't want to uh, once it is created, you don't want to directly check the health, you can disable it, but this is not a useful feature. But if you want to create a health check, but you right away not interested to check the health because you are still doing something on the server and all those things, then you can disable it. Later you can enable it. Okay, and then we have some latency graphs, and this latency means we'll discuss what is latency and all, so that you can understand. So basically it will create some what you can say graphs and all those things. So it's kind of fancy stuff. We don't need that. We'll discuss anyway latency and all those things. And health checker regions. So this health checker regions basically means, if you take the load balancer example, load balancer is the device which checks the health of the instances, right? Now here we are asking Route 53 to check this server IP address, check this IP addresses server, the health check. Who will check? We are saying Route 53, but where it is actually Route 53? Route 53 actually does not require a region selection. So it is not a region based service. So it's not Route 53 in Mumbai, Route 53 in Singapore. It's not like that. This does not require a selection. So Route 53 is basically it's a whole service across AWS. But Route 53 actually located for this checking the health. Route 53, the AWS, what they did is they placed some servers across locations. Across locations. So those all servers will actually check the health of your servers, whatever the server IP addresses, port numbers which you have mentioned. So here we specified that to I mean by default these are all the locations where actually the health check servers of AWS are located. So those will check your instance health check. If you don't want all these health check servers to be checked, then you can customize it. Click on customize. You don't want North Virginia, remove. You don't want California, remove. Oregon, Ireland, okay, this is fine. You can customize this, but it's, I don't think it's make much difference. Okay, just go with use recommended. The only thing what it will do is, so you will not get much requests. So if you select use recommended, what will happen? Like all these servers, you will get like multiple requests. More requests will come. When you customize it, only few requests will come. It's like that. So if your servers cannot handle much traffic, it's a very small servers, low servers, then go with customize. Okay, and this is what basically the thing. Okay, as pricing, as you already know that it's nothing is free, everything is chargeable, right? Let's go and click on next. And if you want to create an alarm if this health check fails, you can do that. And then if the alarm created alarm in the alarm state, so when the health check failed, the alarm will be in alarm state, and then you can set an action, send an email or restart that EC2 instance. Like that you can do it, right? So that you can do it, but I don't want to create an alarm for it. Let's click on create health check. Now you can see that the health check is successfully created. Okay, so it will take some time to be make online and all. So till the time, what we'll do, we have created some servers in London and as well as in North Virginia. So we'll log into this servers and I will install the web servers till the time it will come online, and till anyway it will get some time to get that health check status and health check output. So till the time we'll do this. So we are checking the health of the instances, but that's fine, right? So if ALB is doing the health check, there is a funda is there. If that health check fails, it will not route the traffic. But what is the funda here in there in Route 53? What is the use of checking the health? Why we need to check by the, I mean, our instances health checked by the Route 53? What we'll get, right? So we'll see that in the routing policies, we'll come to know that usage. Okay, this is the instance. The same way, I will log into this Linux instance as well, which is in North Virginia. So what I'll do is, in these two instances, I will install a web server. Simply, I will install a web server, and then I will locate some website, simple website. Okay, I will install a web server. So here also I will install the web server. Open server manager. It will take some time. Okay, here we'll come back. We'll start the, sorry, it should be service, right? Start. So we make sure that it will start on boot. Okay. Now this server has an what we installed it, and if you go and access it, we'll see some basic web page. I don't want this basic web page. So what I'll do, I'll create a small in the document, the website folder. In the web server folder, I'll create a simple HTML file. It's very simple HTML file. Okay, if you want, you can do it in Windows also. If you're not sure about what is Linux and all, you do the same thing. That's why even I'm creating a Windows as well. Okay, so here let's click on add roles and features. Web server, select web server. So whatever is feasible to you, you can proceed with that. So I'm showing you both. Which one you think is feasible, you can do it. Now here I will create a small HTML. It says that simple HTML page, nothing else. Okay, I'll say that. Okay, this, okay. Site is under maintenance. Please come back after some time. I just created a simple page. So what will happen if somebody opens this, it will display this message. Simple HTML, okay. Previously we got this, like when I open and we got that default page. Now if you refresh, you see that site is under maintenance, please come back after some time. This will open. Okay, great. But the thing is here is that the thing is now it has this public IP, right? So if you want the server, if I shut down and start the instance, what will happen? It will change, right? So if you go there here, we have created a health check for this server. Come back here, and if you refresh, it's healthy, right? Now how we mapped it? We mapped with the IP address 13.2.13.92.89, but this is a public IP. So if at some point of time, if I stop and start the instance, what will happen? The IP address will change. Now if the IP address will change, what will happen? This mapping will not change. It is trying to check the health of this IP address. That IP address is no more, or it is given to somebody else. Then this health check is of no use, or it will be shown as unhealthy, right? So for that reason, what we need to do is we need to use an elastic IP, right? So I'll just go ahead and use the elastic IP. Then I will associate with this. But we have to make a change with this in the health check as well, right? How we can make the change? Simple. Edit health check, remove that IP address, paste the new one, click on save. Now this will work for us, right? Now this will work, right? Great. Okay, this installation is succeeded here in Windows. Let's go to a folder, the web server folder, and create here also some basic HTML page. So default pages I will delete. So what I'll do, I'll create here a simple HTML page. So simple HTML page here also HTML. So header, I'll say that okay, welcome to. So the server is in welcome to AWS EC2 server in London. Where is London? In Europe. Okay, great. Oh shit. So it should be H1, right? And then HTML close tag. So I'll save this file as index.html. I'll show the file as index.html. Where is HTML? This one. HTML I'll select. Save. So I've selected it. I'll copy this file, simple file. This is a file. I'll copy and I'll paste it here. So now previously if we do that, what will happen? We'll get the default page. Now if you see that it says that okay, you have connected to some, you welcome to AWS EC2 server in London, which is in Europe, right? Okay. Now this is also having like as public IP, right? If I stop and start, like I will do stop and start in the coming practical. So that's why what I'll do the same thing for this as well. I'll allocate a new IP address, elastic IP address, and I will associate with it. Okay, this fixed. And the same way here also I'll do it. So when I stop and start the instance, okay, this is also kind of got it. Now I'll create a health check for these servers as well. Okay, now it's fine, right? This is healthy. Mumbai server is healthy, right? So I'll create a health check for this London as well. Is it London only? Yeah, London server only. I'll go with IP address TCP basic. I'll create, and in the advanced details, I'll select fast I want to. So I'll go with the recommended options remaining. It's fine. I'll not create any health check. Sorry, alarm and all. Okay. Now Mumbai server is saying healthy because the server is running, right? Now if I stop the server, what will happen? Let's stop the server. It should fail normally, right? The health check should fail. We'll see that. So how it will look like when it is unhealthy? When the server is down, how it will be look like? We'll see that and come back to it. Here also we'll create a till the time we'll create a North Virginia health check as well. NVUSHC health check. Go TCP basic. I want fast 10 seconds. Next, create health check. Done. We have created 3 now. It will check the health of it. And but what is the use? I will let you know. Okay, to understand that, we need to understand a concept called routing policies. Okay, there are majorly 5 routing policies are available. But what is this routing policy is all about? Okay, what is this routing policy is all about? When we open any website, what is actually happening? When I open google.com, our request is going to the google.com server. The same with Facebook or Twitter, same thing, right? So basically our request is routing. When we request to open some website, some application, our requests are routing over the internet to reach the destination, right? So here on the concept of routing, so basically our requests are going. So in the DNS, what AWS come up with some advanced topic, or you can say the concepts, which called routing policies. So what is this routing policies will give us is that, let's say if you have hosted your website across multiple servers and that in multiple locations, let's say in Mumbai, London, US, you have hosted the same site but in different locations. And when somebody accesses your website, let's say you want to make some policy, you want to create some policy saying that if somebody from, let's say, Europe accessing my website, I want the user get the content from London server. If somebody from Asia is trying to access, then I want them to access the get the content from Mumbai server. If somebody is coming from Canada or United States, North America, South America, let's say, I want them to get the content from something like this. So instead of, we normally map it some name to IP address, right? So if you browse the name directly, your request will come here. This is default. But here what we are doing this policies is basically we're trying to make some decisions, some mechanisms. I'm saying the same name will be used by different people, but they will be routed. I mean, their request will reach the destinations in, sorry, to the different location servers. So what is the useful of this? I mean, what is the use of this policies and all what we'll get, right? So basically the policies is like this. Basically what we'll do, will make the policy saying that to distribute traffic multiple servers based on some policy. So there are like 5 policies are there: simple, weighted, latency, failover, and geolocation. So to understand the policies, we need to understand like each and every policy so that we can understand what is the use of it, why we need to distribute, what is the advantage we'll get by doing it. Okay, so the first thing what we have, this simple routing policy. So this simple routing policy is the default routing policy. Means when you go and click on create a record saying that www.somename.com, you map it to some IP address. So by default the routing policy in the below is set to, in the same record creation setup, is set to simple. Simple routing policy means nothing, there is no routing policy. Or you can say that the default routing policy, when somebody accesses the website, it will go to the request will go to the destination which is associated to the mapped server. That is default. Okay, then these are having some extra features, policies: weighted, latency, failover, and geolocation and all, right? So first let's go with this weighted so that we can understand like what is basically the concept or the actual mate of weighted routing policy. Let's try to understand the weighted concept. Okay, now before that, you see that I've stopped the Mumbai server. It's unhealthy now because I've stopped it. Now if I go and start the instance back again, anyway we have used elastic IP address to do that, right? So it will not, I mean, it will not do anything. It will, once the server is started, the health check will come up as healthy. Let's go and start the instance. So when the server is down, it is not reachable, it will be look like unhealthy. It will be like this. If the server is fine, it will be look like this healthy. It's like that. So health checks are fine, I mean they are working, right? We are able to see that. Okay, let's go to hosted zones and let's try to understand the concept of this weighted routing policy and what is this is all about. Okay, and as I told that when we click on create record, so by default you are selecting some routing policy. You see that there is a concept here, routing policy, the setting is there, right? Here it is listed all the routing policies, but by default it's select to simple. Simple means nothing. If you want a different routing policy or weighted latency, you select it. But what is weighted, what is latency, we'll try to understand so that we can see like when we can use that particular thing and all those things. Okay, so now let's try to understand this weighted routing policy. Give me 1 minute, guys. I'll just come back in a minute. Hi guys, I'm back. Now let's see this weighted routing policy to understand. Okay, the same thing which we are talking about, like you have multiple servers. Let's say you have multiple servers are there, and that servers are in different locations. Okay, those servers are in different locations. Oh, sorry, like this here. Okay, there's one server, there's one more server here, and one more server here. But these servers are actually, you created three servers and you deployed the application on it, right? But the thing is that these three servers are different configurations, means the instance types I'm talking about, different configurations. So one is like maybe a small instance, T2 micro kind of, okay, and the other is like maybe M4 large kind of. The another instance like X1E, some 24 extra large. It's a very big server, let's say. Okay, this is in Mumbai. This is in Mumbai location, and this is in London, and this is in US, let's say. Okay, now you deployed your application. So why you have chosen the three different configurations here is that, right? So you map some name in the Route 53, let's say, saying that some gravellabs.com or whatever it is, right? So most of the time this application will be used, let's say, in the United States or maybe in some locations. So now what you want is, most of the traffic is basically coming in some locations. So what you will do, let's say you created three instances with three different configurations, and what is your intention idea is that, so most of the load will be taken by you want to taken by this server because it's a very big server, massive server, and this one you want, let's say, a moderate traffic can be taken, and this one very low kind of. So, and you're trying to like divide the traffic on, it's not on round robin basis. If you use load balancer, let's say, what will happen, it will distribute the traffic evenly, right? But what do you want now, you have kind of an in an intention saying that, I mean, you want this server to be used a lot, and this server somewhat, maybe let's say in the 100%, like you want this server can take, let's say, 65%, this server can take maybe 25%, and this server can take remaining 10%, something like that you want. So that's why you created it like this. It's a very huge server. It can handle easily 65%. But how can you do that? How can you? So while users are accessing your name on your using the name, how Route 53 can distinguish this, right? So as I told, the policies, right? The routing policies will be used. So the weighted will do this, or weighted is basically kind of this one. So what we need to do is we need to create we need to create multiple records. We need to create multiple records with the same name, with the same name. So what I'm trying to do, this what we just did when we have started discussing on the Route 53, one name we have mapped to multiple IP addresses, right? The same thing here. Instead of one name mapping to multiple addresses, I will create the same name multiple times, map it to the different IP address. Same thing only. Instead of one record, I'll create three records. That's the only difference. But here, what I want extra thing is that here when I say if you use one name to multiple, I told you that it will use round robin. So if 100 requests are there, every will get like around 33, 34 kind of. But I don't want that. I want this server should take more load. In that case, we'll use while creating these records. What I will do, I'll put some load. So I'll put some weight for each record. That weight can be from 0 to 255. So when I say 0 means it will not take any requests. 0 means Route 53 will not forward any request to the that IP address. And you can give up to 255. So how it will be actually work these weights? Let's say you can give on a scale of anything. Let's say I created on a scale of 10. Take an example. Let's say this one I want 6, 3, 1. I gave the 6 weight here, 3 weight here, 1 here. So total how many? It's 6, 3, 1 means 10. So what Route 53 will do is if 10 queries came to Route 53 to DNS, what it needs to do, it needs to give the IP address which is associated with this name. That is a Route 53 job. That is a DNS job, right? So what it will do, if the 10 users are asking what is the IP address of this domain, what it will do is it basically for 6 users it will give the this server IP address. Okay, this is the IP address, go and connect. For remaining 3 users it will give this server IP address. Okay, go, you guys go and connect to this. For one user it will give this Mumbai server IP address, so that they will be connected to here, one guy here, 3 guys here, 6 guys, like this. So we are distributing the traffic, right? So this is the kind of mechanism. It's basically called weighted. So you might ask like, so you can use same instance type across the, so that you can have distribute evenly and all those things. You might have things, but this is an option provided by Route 53, feature provided by Route 53. If you want to use multiple servers with the different configurations, then you can go with this weighted routing policy. If you don't want, you don't use it. It's like that. But the concept is like this. This is how they designed. Let's try to evaluate with this now. Okay, let's go to Route 53. I'll remove all the records because there are, so you can go and delete it. So I'll start from fresh. Okay, let's click on create a record. I'll say www.gravenlabs.com. I want to map it to the, so here let's say first I'll map it to the, this is a Mumbai server. Let's copy, paste it here, but in the routing policy I'll select weighted. And here if you come down a bit, you can select a, you can specify the weight. So I'll specify only one. You can give set ID. Set ID means nothing, tag. So I'll just Mumbai server, something like that, nothing else. And you can associate with health check as well, but I will not associate now. We'll see in a different use case so that you can get the actual idea about what is health check and how it will be useful in Route 53. Okay, I will not use now, but you can use it with this also. Let's click on create. So we created the same name. I'll map it to another server, www. This time I'll map it with the London server. But the change is that I will give a different weight. This time I'll give 3 weight, and is London server. I'll just give a tag name, click on create. The same way I'll copy, create a record, same name, because we have to give different weight, so that why we are creating 3 records. Instead, if you want to go with the round robin, you can directly create in a single record. It's like that. So I'll say US and click on create. Now we see same name www mapping to 3 records, 3 servers, right? But when I open now www.gravelabs.com, what will happen? Which one I will be getting, right? So most of the requests will go to where? Sorry. Okay, it's not mapped properly. 1 second. So maybe we'll try to access from different locations using proxy site. Proxy site. Okay, I'll try to access www.gravelabs.com. Copy the name. Here I'll enter. Now we see to where we went. Site is under maintenance. Please come back after some time. So where we place this content actually in the North Virginia server, right? So if you try to access from different locations, you'll see it's going to London. Let's try from different locations. London, again North Virginia, London, London. You see that? North Virginia. So I'm trying to access from different locations. You see that most of the requests are basically, oh, sorry, seems to have an error with this proxy set. Okay, so most of the requests are basically coming from either North Virginia or from London. But have you seen it? Is it going to the uh, Mumbai anywhere now? So I think apart from here, I mean from here basically, because it's an old record is there, so that's why we are going. After some time it will fix, because in India it will be always slow. The record changes and all those things, DNS updations will take some time. Okay, so that's why you use this site so that you can have a better idea. Now you see, we didn't even see a one request went there like that. So most of the request handled by whom? North Virginia or London. So if you kind of in that kind of a requirement, you can use this weighted routing policy. Okay, understand? That is the concept is basically. Now we have a latency routing policies there. Okay, we have a latency routing policy is there. Now to understand this latency routing policy, so do you guys know what is latency first? Anybody have any idea what is latency? It's delay. Okay, anybody else? Delay in response. Okay, late in response. Okay. Anybody else? Time taken for a packet to reach from one point to another. Perfect. Harpal. Time taken from user to yes. Seems to be true. Okay, so I just allowed all traffic in the security groups of all the servers till the time, right? Now what I'll do, I'll just ping these three servers, right? So take the IP address, I will ping, just open the command prompt, I'll ping all these uh, three servers. First it's Mumbai, I'm getting the response. The same way I'll ping the London. It's a Windows, I think. I don't think it will respond. Yeah, it's not responding because we need to switch off the firewall. Oh shit. You need to connect again. We'll connect, no worries. I just open all traffic because the ping by default will be disabled at the security group. So Windows actually blocks because Windows firewall will be enabled in the operating system. So that way it will not ping. So I'm just making change so that firewall.cpl. I'll turn off the firewall so that it can respond. Okay, now it is responding. This is 3.8 is London and 13 dot is what? Is this 13 dot is basically even Mumbai, and let's do the for this North Virginia US server as well. And in the response, you just need to understand one thing. Here is that focus on one thing. This is London server. This is Mumbai server. This is US server. So I'm in India now, right? I'm in India now. From here, ping to that, basically what it means is that I'm trying to reach the servers from my location where I'm currently staying. Okay, and I got the response. But here, one thing we need to see is the thing in the responses is called the time. We need to see. So what is this time basically means? So from here, where I'm sitting to reach the server, either London server, Mumbai server, or whatever the server is. So how much time it took to reach the destination, right? So that we call it as latency actually. So the time took to reach the destination, we call it as latency, basically the duration you can say. Okay, so if the time is high, then people say that it's high latency. Then if the time is low, then people say that it's low latency. Right now, if you see the first one, London, it took around 132 milliseconds. Okay, for Mumbai, it is just take around 35 milliseconds. For United States, it took around like 214, 215 milliseconds. So if you take, let's say, take globe here. So this is the globe. Let's take an example. It's not like it's similar. Okay. Now, if India is here, let's say, so quite opposite, I think US will be there, right? Exactly opposite. So Europe will be somewhere here, maybe I think that London, like this. Now from here, if I want to reach either this or this, so basically what my request has to travel like half of the globe. So a request from here to reach the US server to, I mean, to travel half of the globe, it's like doing around 215 to 16 milliseconds, right? And for London, it's taking, so from here to here only. So it's around like 130 milliseconds kind of, because it's not that long as US. It's kind of okay. And we're in Mumbai, so it's in India only, right? So it's very near to me. Kind of maybe some hundreds of kilometers, maybe, or maybe some. I don't think it's not 1,000, but some kind of 100 kilometers. So it took just 35 milliseconds to reach. So basically, less duration means less time. Simple, right? So This latency is basically that. So if you reach the server, if you connect to a server which is near to you, you will connect within less time, a good speed. If you're trying to connect to a server which is in a different location far away from you, it will take a lot of time, right? So on this latency only, AWS has created this policy called latency routing policy. So after this, I will finish the class and we'll see later. In the next week, we'll see the remaining things. Okay. This latency routing policy. Now let's say the same thing, the same requirement, but you have forget about, we have like three different kind of servers. We have the same servers only. Just think about that. We have the same servers only, but in different locations, as I told. It's in different locations. Now, some name web dot something is there, groundlabs.com. Now your requirement is that if somebody access from, let's say, Asia, so for Asia, which is the nearest server, Mumbai is the nearest server. So you want the Mumbai people, or sorry, you want Asia people to go to Mumbai server. And for Europe, Middle East, Africa, London will be nearer. For United States, like South Africa, sorry, South America, North America, like North Virginia is nearer, right? So you want your users to reach the application faster by reaching the server which is nearer to them. How we can make them? Using the latency routing policy. In the latency routing policy, what AWS will do is, now you can map some name with multiple IP addresses. You create multiple records, map to multiple IP addresses. Then when somebody is like accessing your website, when you're using latency routing policy, what Route 53 will do is, Route 53 will identify from where this guy is trying to access, what is his location, and from his location in the mapped servers, in the created servers, which will be the nearest server. It will calculate from this guy location to which is nearest, then the request will be routed to the that nearest server, whatever it is. Basically, it will respond with an IP address of the nearest server. So it will basically calculate these things. It will calculate where he's coming from his location, which is nearest, and then respond with that. So that is what basically we'll see that Ashok, you're kind of getting the concept. We'll see that anyway. Okay, right. So these are basically right. Now let's create this. Let's copy now Mumbai. Okay, let's use the latency routing policy this time. Let's use a different name, web dot something. Okay, paste it here and use a latency routing policy. So you don't need to do anything when your latency routing policy, just give a tag name. So it's a Mumbai server. Now what I'll do, I'll associate with health check. So when we associate with health check, what will happen? If that health check, as long as the health check is healthy, your request will be routed to this server. If the health check fails, AWS will not route the request to the health check failed server. It will route to a different server. Okay. So for Mumbai, we have created Mumbai server. We'll create same way web, copy the London server IP address, use latency, it's London server something, give name and associate with health check. We already created this also for it. Let's click on London, create, and then create record, web, copy this IP address, paste it. Now if I select latency, automatically it is getting that region where it is actually located. You don't need to give it. You don't need to choose a location. Okay. Now we'll select that US. As long as the health check is up and running, we'll not have any issues. Now From here, I will try to access web.gravenlabs.com. This is the website, right? Now you see where I connected. This is WordPress server is where Mumbai. So I connected to Mumbai. Okay. Let's try to connect from different locations. Now I'll select, let's say, Europe location or US location. I'll try to access the same domain. So from a US location, which will be the nearest this maintenance page where we mentioned North Virginia. I'll use a different another US location. See, North Virginia, another US location, North Virginia. Let's go and select Europe location, some Europe, EU3 something. We'll see. For a Europe guy, which will be the nearest? Obviously London. You see that? Another Europe location. See? So basically, within no time, our request is routing. So whatever I just told, right, it will route with the latency routing policy will find the user location and calculate which is the nearest location server, and then it will route the traffic to that. But we are not seeing it. When I click on enter, I'm getting the response. So you see within a millisecond of time, the things are happening, right? Like this is what basically the latency routing policy is all about. Okay, understand? The latency routing policy means, okay, anybody have any questions? Good. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'm stopping the Mumbai server. I'm shutting down the Mumbai server. Okay, right now tell me what will happen if I access the website web.gravenlabs.com from here. What will happen now? Perfect Industry, you're right. I need the exact answer, Ashok. You're right, Prashant. I'm not asking of the terminology here. I'm saying that the answer. Okay, let's see. Right? I'll refresh. It's kind of taking some time. Wait for it. So here in India, it will be like kind of slow. Oh, sorry. Wait a second. Maybe I'll do one thing. I'll flash the DNS. First, let's go and see that health check. Is it? What is the state of health check? Yep, it's unhealthy. Right. Now you see what happened? To where we connected. Why? Right. So basically, if you see now, previously we have three servers. For India, Mumbai, previously it was connected because Mumbai is the nearest for India people, right? For me. Now, now the server is what happened? The server is down. So we have only left with what? Two servers only, right? This server is down means the health check will fail. If the health check fail, what will happen? Route 23 will not route the request to here. Then we have only two servers are left. So for an India guy, which will be the nearest server in US and London? Obviously, London is nearest. We have seen that, right? It's around 120 or 130 milliseconds here, wherein it's like 215 milliseconds here, which is nearer. Obviously, London will be nearer. So that's why we have connected back to London. Now, if I go and start again, then what will happen? After some time, the health check came back. Then the server will be online, right? Server will be online. What will happen? Again, the same story. Once the server is online, you'll be having three for India guy, which will be nearest, right? So it's like that. So this is what basically the latency routing policy. So what if Mumbai site is down in case of waiting routing? See, what is weighted routing? Basically, uh, heavyweight server will get the more request, right? If one server goes down, you will have still have other servers, right? Let's take an example. We have given 6, 3, 1. Okay. Now, if this server is down, let's take an example in the weighted routing. So every 10, normally every 10 requests, 6 will come here, 3 will come here, 1 will go here. But if this is down, we left with only two servers. So 3 and 1. So on the basis of what it will do, on the basis of 4 requests, 3 requests will come here, 1 request will go here. Every 4 requests, it's like that. So this is for today's session, guys. So we have left with two more routing policies. We'll discuss in the um, next session. That will be on the next Saturday, right? Same 8 a.m. IST. We'll discuss failure routing and geolocation, and then we can complete the Route 53, and then we'll go to the few more services. So there are only like two or three important services are there. One is the VPC second part, and then the IAM and S3. So IAM, S3, VPC second part. These are the major topics. So remaining all like it's kind of a small services or some services which are not much important. You can say that. Okay. So after this completion of these three major topics, like we'll go kind of a speed a bit, like because those are not much. So we'll not discuss in detail as we are discussing like this. So we will go with the brief of that service. What is that service? How we can use it, kind of, right? So it's like that. No, it will not, Khalid. See, in the weighted means which will be the highest server? US, right? So the request will go to the US one. It will not go to Mumbai. If Mumbai is the highest weighted one, it will go to Mumbai. It's like that. Weighted routing policy, it's all about weight. Which is the highest weight, they will take a lot of, more requests. It's like that. Yes, Neha, you're right. It will go to London because, I mean, the more request will go to London, few requests will go to Mumbai. It's like that. So the highest weighted server will get more request. The lowest weighted server will get only few requests. It's like that. So different concept. Latency is different. Weighted is different. So if you want to practice this Route 53 and all, you need these credentials, Route 53 credentials. So what you guys can do is you go and get the details from Cognitia team. So send an email. They'll provide you the link to log into this account and the username password. Okay, as I told, you will be have access to only Route 53. You cannot use EC2, RDS, or VPC. You don't have any option. I mean, if you can go there, but you cannot create, you can't do anything. Okay, remember that. You can only have access to this Route 53. Is it good to do DevOps course along with this training or after finishing the? Yes, yes, obviously, Rajesh. DevOps is also yes. I mean, if you are from a Linux background and you want to or maybe you want to settle in the automation DevOps side, yes, obviously. I mean, go with after the course. Along with the course means like anyway we have left with only 2 weekends, right? So it's like max 4 classes only left. So after 2 weekends, anyway the batch is over. So after that you can join. So why like in the mid? So get some space in between so that you can practice more on AWS and then jump onto DevOps. I mean, obviously, when you have multiple skill set, it's obviously better because like more organizations. I mean, the more organizations are looking for the people with multiple disciplines, multiple skill sets. So obviously, if you have more, like you'll be chosen. It's like that. Which systems you're talking about, Rupesh? We'll try to see in the last session, Neha. Cognitia will provide you the access. I mean, they'll only, I mean, see, they will provide you this account access only, where I am currently doing the Route 53, right? So here you can only access, I mean, you will be having only the access to Route 53 service. I mean, you cannot create the instances in this account, you cannot create the databases, you can't do anything. So what I did, I have created in this account, right? In my account, I have created the servers and all those things, right? In this account, Satish account, I created all these things. And the mapping, I did it in the Route 53 because here I have the domains. Got it? The same way you can do it. Okay, guys, seems like we don't have much questions. So let's leave for the day and we'll meet you at the next weekend, same time, 8 a.m. IST. So you guys, thank you. Do some practice. I have seen some people uh, not able to remember like what we have discussed around like 3-4 sessions ago. So do some practice, guys, because after one session, after one and a half session, like we'll go with a better pace. I mean, it's like we'll discuss in a single session, we'll discuss like 5-10 services. I mean, it's all small, but again, we'll discuss couple of services in the last two sessions. A lot of services we'll discuss. That not much essential, but it's like that. We'll discuss at a bit pace. Okay, so you need to have like good understanding on what we are discussing now. Do some practice, so there you can catch it up. Chala guys, we'll leave you. Thank you. See you on next weekend. Thank you.